Hi, I'm Tom.
I'm Matty.
And I'm Lewis.
This is the Wigan Way, Wigan's favourite rugby league podcast.
He'll put you in his trap, 'cause he's a union man. He's got it all figured out. He won't care what you think, 'cause he's a northern man. He's allowed to speak his
Hello, thank you for joining us again on this episode of the Wigan Way. Obviously, we had a little we missed last week, so we will review quite quickly the Salford game. But before we get into that, lads, how have you been over the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, no complaints. It's been good. Just keep going, cracking on. Summer holiday, obviously, we both look at. I think I've mentioned on the podcast before. We're all teachers, so we're just counting down to the summer break now. Gonna have 6 weeks off and go from there. So just get into the ground and finishing off the academic year well. But yeah, it's been good.
Getting closer, isn't it? Sports days, work experiences, things like that are happening.
So, Matty, how was your 2 weeks?
Yeah, good. Yeah, very good. Had a good weekend. Played cricket with you on Saturday. Sunday I went on the waterfront in Liverpool. Concert near to where I live. A load of Scouse bands were on there. James, Coral, Red Rum Club, fantastic. So yeah, got soaking wet through, but it was good fun.
Oh, very nice. And what a win on Saturday, by the way.
Yeah.
I know it's a different sport, but is there any better feeling than winning a close game?
No, I don't think there is.
Oh,
Especially when you both contributed.
yeah. For once, we've done something.
But let's get into the rugby. So last week, obviously we missed the episode last week. Unfortunately, a few things got in the way of us being able to film. So we'll quickly mention the game. We played Salford that week at the AJ Bell. We talked about it being a tough bit of spell with Ellis being banned and only getting Havard back and a couple of others like that.
And we'd had 2 good wins in the Cup recently and,
Yeah.
and the 1 good win at Hull KR, but in the league we'd been struggling.
Yeah, so we'd sort of said after the Warrington game that if we could get out of these 3 games, Salford, Huddersfield and then Wakey next week and get 6 points no matter what it was like, that would be a brilliant time and then get Ellis back and take it from there. But it was quite a convincing win, really.
It was in the end, yeah.
26 points to 6. It was 8-6 at half time. The tries for Wigan was Shorrocks, Farrell got 2, Miskey got 1 and Marshall got 1. Smith kicking 3 goals from 5. Ben Hallowell scoring for Salford. One of them games that I'm just sort of happy with a win, really.
I think this was a bigger win than it probably seems. I think a lot of people would have expected us to go to Salford and get the win, and that is the expectation for a club like Wigan to be beating teams like that. But I think after you've just come off a performance in the Cup where we've done really well, played 75 minutes with, probably even more actually, with 12 men, to manage to get the win, you really want to carry that form over into your league. And I think if it would have gone away to Salford and lost,
And Salford
that could have been
coming off a loss in the quarterfinals, so they would want to get back on the winning horse.
that could have. I won't say that. It's all if buts and maybes, isn't it? It could have been desperate, but I think it would have been a bit hard then to bounce back once again. Like after having the big win for the cup, it would have gone then on a low to take a loss, and then bounce back again the week after would be hard. So I think it was important we carried our cup form over into the league, and we managed to do that. So yeah, it was a very good win, this one.
Yeah, certainly some nice moves. I watched the game on Wigan TV a couple of days later. I thought it was a pretty good result. I know people are complaining about team makeup and perhaps Bevan French not being the right option to partner Harry Smith, but I don't think it was too much of a problem, to be honest. I think we actually played quite well.
Yeah, just doing enough, just
beat them. We beat
tough,
them, didn't we?
tough times and just getting wins. And
Salford were missing Croft and Ackers, and then obviously Brightly went off with a head knock where he was trying to tackle French. So they were always going to struggle in that second half without those 3.
I think there's just a case sometimes of get 2 points and go home.
Yeah, win the game.
Like we're going to talk about the Wakefield game coming up. If you win by a big point score, it's expected.
Win 1-0.
There's almost no reward to that, and it's just get the 2 points, get the job done, and get out.
Yeah.
But let's move on to this week's game. We played Huddersfield on Friday. A win. A win where we've only conceded 1 try. I think I think the lads will be a little bit disappointed with that, conceding that try from Jake Bibby at the end.
It was a very late try, yeah.
Very late try. It was a consolation try, but it just felt like we'd just gone a little bit flat for maybe a minute or so, and then they get a try and you lose that nil. I think Matty Pete will be pushing them now to get that nil to shore up that defence and not let an easier try like that. But for 70 minutes, I think we were the dominant side.
Yeah, and it has to be said, absolutely dreadful conditions.
Yeah.
Dreadful conditions. I was absolutely soaking wet again. Twice this weekend, that was. But just walking back to my car after the game, and I've sat in the same seat for almost 20 years now in the East Stand, and I could count on one hand the amount of times I've been wet. And Friday night, the rain came into work like as far up as I sit, and it was really quite unpleasant for times on that evening. But Wigan dealt with the conditions better than Huddersfield, and the class showed in the end. It wasn't a night for French and for Field to do any magic,
And we still did.
and they still did a bit. Like they reserved a bit for us,
Field scored a very nice try, didn't he?
but it wasn't.
He just got round
It
in.
wasn't the night for them to blister away from everybody and set up big arcing moves from your own 30, 40 that we've seen them doing in the past. It wasn't that kind of a win because it wasn't that kind of a night.
Well, let's go through the tries. There was 2 for Miski. Both set up through some very, very good hands. First of all, I think the first one was from Bevan with a big cut-out ball, and he left Leroy Cudjoe, who we discussed before, Lewis, that he played pretty much almost every position for Huddersfield this week. This time he played
from prop. He played every position, I think.
He played second row last week for them, and this week he's out on the wing. That can't help you, can it? Just positionally being out of place.
He's a good player, Leroy Cudjoe. He's experienced player. He's been around the block, but how many times do we keep mentioning with Huddersfield consistency?
In the centres.
It keeps getting to
That's what I
this
mean.
point. We keep repeating ourselves.
He's an experienced player in
He's a
the
centre.
centres.
In
He's
the-
played
yeah.
centre most of his career. I can't remember him playing many times away from centre.
But from 1 week, I know it's still he's played this position before. He's played on the wing before, but to go from centre to wing is difficult. But to go from second rower to wing, he just seemed out of position slightly. And I think French, with a brilliant set of hands, cut him out at pace, and Miski gets a stroll over in the corner, almost untouched.
It's just odd, this situation, isn't it, with Huddersfield? We said they've signed too many centres, and it seems to come true. Like Halsall was at the academy game that we went to. We'll talk about it in a bit. Just sitting around doing nothing. Esam Masters was a big money signing, and he's 18th man this game.
I was going to say, let's go through that team for them. Connor at full-back could play centre. Cudjoe is a centre for me. Jake Bibby, centre. Nguama is a centre. McGilvery's a genuine out-and-out winger.
I know, but here's the thing: like we played Bibby on the wing for quite a while. If I had Cudjoe and I had Bibby, I think it would be Bibby that would move on to the wing. He's played there a lot more.
He's a bit more mobile.
He played a grand final on the wing, remember, and he scored a try when he played for Salford. In fact, he scored in back-to-back grand finals, and he was on the wing both times, I believe, for Wigan and for Salford. So if I was going to move anyone to the wing, I think it would have been Bibby.
But then, not included in that back five was, first of all, Will Price, who would probably play full-back, meaning you would have to find somewhere for Connor, and he could fill in at centre. I don't think he's a full-back. I've always preferred him as a centre. But the 18th man was Masters.
Yeah.
Big signing from the NRL. He's played nearly 100 games in the NRL?
Yeah, Cowboys mainly.
Yeah. And then he's come over here. He played the first 10 games without getting dropped, and now he's the 18th man. And Sam Halsall, who left Wigan, and I don't know why he left Wigan. I don't know what went on in that situation.
He went the well, they wanted him when we wanted Jake Wardle. He was going in the other direction. That's why.
But not even including Connor, you put Cudjoe, Bibby, Nguama, Masters. That's four centres ahead of Sam Halsall,
Yeah.
who is a steady player and he can do a job on the wing.
Yeah, another one who can play on the wing. You're right.
It's a very, very strange situation that you've got so many centres and so many spine players, because in the halves they've got Russell and Lulla here, and I'm a big fan of Russell. I rate him. I think he's
Well, he's come back in and he's moved Connor out to the halves and to
Yeah.
full back, and he's not give Will Price a shirt for this game. So
I rate Russell. I think
Yeah.
I think he's a talent.
It's another. It's like you're saying with the centres there. It's a bit similar. They've got too many players who can play the same positions, and I don't know what. I can't remember what round this was, but we're a good chunk into the season now, and
We're
I
over
still
halfway.
don't think Watson knows what his best 1 to 13 is.
Yeah,
But
we're over halfway.
we're
'cause
in a
the-
cup final. If they're in a cup final, grand final, I don't think he knows what his best 1 to 13 is going to play.
But then let's look at who's played halfback and fullback, because they are interchangeable. And Lola Price and Connor have both played full. Or have all played fullback and
There's
six.
been
And they've
so
all
many
played halfback,
combinations. There's been so many combinations.
We've named 4. We've not even talked about Theo Farge.
Farge, yeah.
Who they've missed? They've missed him. haven't
They've missed Farge, but how do you get him into this team?
Well, we said this at the start, didn't we? Before this even the season started, I think that's what's going to be questioned. Is Watson did such a good job last season. Everyone was tipping him to go on to do maybe one better, have a winner, win something, or at least climb up, maybe shock and get in, maybe a second spot, or even, top 4 definitely. And then all the signings come in. We said, well, they're signing big players, but no one could really piece and say what they want. You look at the Saints, you know probably what they want to say.
You know
Wellsby's
Wellsby's
going to
gonna
be
play
fully start.
full-back.
You could go through the squad numbers. You do it with Wigan, all right, is French a field going to play full-back and that, but you can go through. Huddersfield, I had no idea what the 1 to 13 were going to be before they started. Because like you said, they had so many players who could play similar positions.
But this is it though.
They signed Adam Milner mid-season. They signed Adam Milner from Cass.
Didn't Will Price have the number 1 shirt last year?
Yeah, they took it off him because he's leaving, and they give him a shirt number in the 30s, I think.
Yeah,
Which already says to me like
if you're doing
we
that, you
didn't
might
do-
as well go.
we didn't do that with Pierce Paul, did we? He's still a member of our team for this year.
But you then go into the forwards, and Chris Hill, Adam Milner, Wilson, Levette, McQueen, Yates. There is a lot of experience there, and there are some very, very good players. Chris McQueen is a brilliant player.
I like you, Luke Yates.
I like you, Luke Yates. Chris
I like-
Hill has been a brilliant player in his
Peaks
time.
as well. He forward seem to run the ball quite well. They've got some good players. Sam Hewitt's decent.
But I'm not sure who they're missing. I'm not looking at that squad going, they've got some big forwards to come back. There's a lot of money in the 1 to 7, but it doesn't feel like there's a lot of money spent on the squad from 8 to 13, in my opinion.
I think McQueen and Yates will be on a bit, and Nathan Peace as well. But apart from that, I think.
But then you've got to
It's
brought
top
Adam
heavy,
Milner
isn't
in to play 9.
Yeah, they brought.
Pete says your number 1 9. He's your best 9.
Well, I think Adam Milner is more of a utility man, to be honest. Pete's is good from dummy half, but I think Milner's a good defender. I think that's probably what he went for in this game.
Rushton missing, but I've seen that he's out for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
He's picked
Rushton.
up an injury in training from a Wigan or Rushton.
He was an exciting signing. I thought he was going to do quite
Yeah.
well. Obviously, he had this bad injury, so maybe next year for him. Still very young.
But then we go onto the Wigan side, and that's actually seeming to settle down.
Oh yeah, we've named an unchanged team again.
An unchanged
Right
team.
decision as well, I think. That.
Yeah. Field, Miskey, King, Wardle, Marshall is your back 5, French and Smith. And we've actually just spent the last 5 minutes before we came on watching a Jai Fields compilation.
Don't waste our evenings.
Yeah.
Watching
We are
tries we've already
so
seen
busy.
live.
Watching tries from last year.
we were actually talking about the engine that he has and how he was absolutely everywhere. And we look at the Salford try that he scored in the last minute where Escaré takes the drop goal. Oh, we didn't even realise there was 2 minutes left in that game.
No, I'd forgotten it was so
And he
close to
hits
the
top.
end.
He hits top speed so quick. You go in. It's 78 minutes. How can you run like that? And that's why I think this change of Fields at full back and French in the halves, whether that's getting the best out of French or not, I think it gives us a better balance because his energy is almost his ability to run and his ability to be everywhere is almost wasted at 6. Where French, you can just bring him into the game and give him the ball when he wants it.
It might be overcomplicating things to do this, but we all agree Field defends at fullback, and French defends in the halves.
Yeah.
They're both better at that, and that improves our team a lot. And French then is not as tired, and it frees him up to be his own magic self all the way through the game.
It's like you've said before, you get the best out of Bevan French whether he's playing
Yeah.
1 or 6.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter.
but what's to stop you from using, I don't know, Joe Shorrocks as a second receiver if needed, and in attack, basically having Harry Smith as a point man and just having French and Field float as 2 fullbacks?
Well, I said this during the game.
They're both amazing.
There was
They're
a
both
couple-
lethal at the back.
Kevin Brown's 2 fullback system.
It's potential.
I wouldn't go as far as to say that, but there was times in this game, if you go back and watch, where we were on the left-hand side and Fields almost stands down a narrow, down a blind side.
Short side, yeah.
And they go Smith to Shorrocks to French, and French has a go, playing almost as the third receiver, as you would expect from the full-back.
Yeah.
From them getting tackled, we come back the other way, Shorrock's first receiver, Smith, Fields. And it's almost the second punch that
You can have them.
you can't get set for.
Yeah, you can have them combining, which I like, and you can also have them because they combined a lot last year at 1 or 2, but you can also have them split at times, and that just makes the defence panic. Well, if you've got French on one side and Field on the other side, you don't know which way it's going to go, then, do you?
No.
And I actually liked, if we're talking it back a week, Miski's try from the scrum,
Yeah.
where Field, French, and Marshall also on the left of the scrum, and we went right.
Yeah, we went with Smith. Smith to King hits a short ball,
Yeah.
and they hit Miski on the outside for a good try in the corner. There's almost 3 ways to play it.
There's ways to manipulate it with when you've got 2 aces.
Yeah.
I would call 2 aces. Where you can manipulate it, and that's why it was important that we got Field back in this team.
I think that's the thing. You can either play them split and then both be a threat on either side of the ruck. You can then go, well, they both go the same way and they pair up and they work together, or you just use it as a massive bluff because you've got to cheat a yard to try and defend it.
So you've got 3 options then.
I think the big thing is as well here, like of course going back to what I said before, the fact that we've named like an unchanged team. We'll get onto the Wakefield predictions for the Wakefield round obviously later on in the podcast, but he's named an unchanged 21-man squad for that game. So I think now the fact we've got some injured, obviously Havard coming back for the cup obviously was a big one. We talked about how good his performance was there.
Yeah.
But the fact now he's naming the same teams, we can get used to playing with French at 6, Field at fullback. We can start working on these scrum plays, and it's the same bodies who are there. I think this is going to massively help us.
And if you
kick
think about the ones that are going to rotate in, it's going to be Cade Ellis,
on.
maybe Isa, maybe Pierce Paul. That's
Yeah.
pretty much it.
It's going to be a bit of a shame this one because I'm enjoying watching Overhill.
Yeah.
I think he's a good player.
Yeah.
I like seeing him get some minutes, but I think when Ellis comes back, Isa comes back, he's probably going to end up taking
I
it.
don't know, because before Ellis was banned, Hill had the shirt over Mago.
Yeah.
Good
And,
point.
and unless he does something this weekend against Wakefield, he's been improved, Mago, the last 2 games, but he's not won the shirt back off Hill, in my opinion.
See, I wouldn't be surprised if he just starts giving a couple of players, like a Liam Byrne, maybe a week off. He's not missed a game yet, has he?
When
He's missed
Ellis
one.
comes back.
When Ellis is back
Yeah.
into the squad.
Singleton was better this week. He needs to be
Yeah.
used a bit more, I think.
But the other thing I was going to say is if you mentioned Harvey Hill and December is, there's a lot of people talking about what does December have to do to get a game. I think it's important to remember the lad's only 18.
Yeah. Let's cool it on the December train. Even though we're all passengers, let's cool it because
There's nothing saying
he's
that he
very
could
young.
play this. I mean, he could play this week instead of Wakefield, and he could give Shorrocks a break
Yeah.
and put December in against Wakefield. But again, that's how he should be used. He should be putting him for the odd game.
Yeah, you
He's
can't
not
be playing
he's not
every
a
week.
starting second row for us.
And you
at the
can't be
minute.
saying
He will
things
be.
like, oh, why Singleton, Mago, why are they getting picked over in December? Yeah, and December's the future. And yeah, he's exciting, and yeah, he's a good player. But you've got to be careful. Byrne, when he came in under Wayne, was fantastic. Smithies was the same, Partington the same. Fantastic players, even Ethan Havard. But they were used too much. And they were used too much then under Lamb. And they all took a backward step, unfortunately, all 4 of them. And yet last year, they all 4 took a step back forwards, and Partington's gone on to good things at Salford. All 3 of those forwards we've kept hold of, plus Shorrocks, I suppose, have all been much improved from the time under Lamb. I think it's just a case of Smithies played his 100th game, didn't he? And he's still a very young man. That's very early to get to 100 games. I would prefer Nsemba to be a bit older when he gets to 100 games.
Yeah.
I'll just say that, just so we're looking after him a bit more.
Especially in the forwards.
Same goes for Hill as well.
Because when you're in the forwards
Yeah.
and you're coming up against big bodies, and in the second row you're expected to make
You're going against
so many tackles.
You're going against McQueen and Chris Hill. These are proper, veterans.
That's
This is what I mean. Let's say he brings him in to play last week. He's got Chris McQueen running at him.
Well, he'll have Fifita this week if he plays.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no.
Or Tanganoa, sorry. Another quality second rower. And you go in, it's going to be tough. And he's had a couple of good games. But just relax. I trust Matty Pete to get it right.
Yeah.
It was clear that they had plans for Matty Nicholson.
Yeah.
And he wasn't happy with them and he wanted more game time. And look at him now at Warrington, he's getting injuries. I can't remember when he's not played for 3 weeks now, has he?
Missing for quite a bit this
That's
season,
what I mean.
Mike Nicholson, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's got the number 12 shirt. Or 11 shirt, sorry, I can't remember which way around it is.
And
Yeah, but he's starting second one.
he's much younger than say James McDonnell, who was another one that we let go just because they were stuck behind John Bateman.
Yeah. And it's just that thing of he's not going to be a world beater yet, but you can certainly burn him out.
Yeah.
There is a risk of burnout. There is a risk of throwing him in, and when it goes wrong, is he going to get jumped on? Is he going to get blamed?
We know he's going to get games coming up in the future because obviously Pierce Paul is going.
Yeah.
Farrell
Isa.
and Isa are getting on a
Another
bit.
year older.
So we know he's probably next season he's going to probably step up to Pierce Paul's level where he's either starting second row in a couple of games, maybe if an injury happens again so an Isa or a Farrell comes in and he might have a bench spot or whatever.
That's where he should
But
be.
that's what you've got to do with young people, you've got to work them in.
I just trust Matty Pete to get it right.
Yeah.
And I trust the lads at Wigan to
Yeah.
get it right.
Especially, because repeat everything he's done for the academy and, with his young players and he'll know when the right time is.
But that's what I was going to say with Shorrock's now playing at second row. I'm glad that they've sort of stuck with that again, that Shorrock's played second row and Smithy's played 13. It's just getting a bit more consistency because we criticised our right-hand side defence 3 or 4 weeks ago for shelling points. And then now we've had a bit of consistency. It starts to settle down and you get used to defending.
The reserves games would be nice, wouldn't they? And Semba get a run out every week.
Yeah.
And
And then go over and be 18th man.
And then be 18th man. Yeah, Hampshire get a run out every week.
Yeah.
Thornley to keep these guys fresh and playing. I think that's what we need.
Shorrocks is doing well as well this season.
Well, he
I've
is.
been asked to do so many, like just on to that when you mentioned him then, he's been asked to do a lot of jobs this season, in playing at half-back, which you're not used to. He's been playing
Played
as
centre for a game, didn't he?
centre, I think,
Didn't he?
I don't know if he's done it this season, but definitely in the past he's been brought on as like a sub-9 and things
Yeah,
like that. So
definitely.
he's been asked to do a lot of jobs probably again. And again, he's only a young lad and he's doing...
He's played as a prop, he's played 13.
Shorrock's
doing
the
well.
Swiss Army knife, and he's cheap, and he's Federation trained. He's the perfect squad player for any big team to have.
Yeah.
Joe Shorrocks.
But while we talked about the reserves, and you mentioned it then, we actually went watching the academy lads on the Friday before the game, and there was 2 things with that we talked about. That we won't go into the rules and the issues behind that, but we'll talk about
that in a bit.
in a bit.
Yeah.
Because they trialled the new rules, but actually having the academy and the reserves and then the Super League match. It felt really good watching the academy, then going inside, having a drink, and then going to the game.
And there were 4. Well, there's 5 now because another one's been called up. I noticed this afternoon, but there were 4 Wigan academy lads picked for England to play against France this week, and they made a bit of a deal of them on the stage, and they interviewed them, and they paraded them around at half time as well.
Yeah.
I just think these lads, they've played in front of a few hundred people there because that's all that was there in bad conditions. But then they've got that passion for it. You know, if that game had just been played at Rose Bridge, for example, on a Thursday night, the same amount of people might have turned up, but it wouldn't have been the same, would it?
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been at Robin Park before the game. We were saying, if all the clubs had committed to academy and reserve games,
Okay, just to interrupt you. How have we not got to a position
No, I
where
know.
every club, especially in Super League, has an academy team
well, there's
and a reserve team?
Yeah. Well, there's red tape with that, and it's very complicated with this sport, as everything is. But if we could get that commitment, you could play all 3 on the same night, couldn't you? And I know next week when it's Warrington, the reserves are playing on the main pitch, the DW pitch beforehand. Or maybe it's the academy, I can't remember.
It'd be a good way for clubs like Wigan, and I'm sure other clubs will be in a similar position, for it set up and get some money in. Because if you put 3 games on instead of just the one, people like yourselves will come here, like you're saying, then have a couple of drinks watching the academy games, spend more money on
Well, if,
whatever, and it puts
especially
more money into the club, doesn't
if
it?
it's a Friday, people finish early on Fridays. I know we
Yeah.
don't, but people do finish early on Fridays in most jobs. You could start that academy game at 3:30. People turn up, dribble in.
No.
Then the reserves are on. What time did that game kick off that we watched? 5:30? You could start it even later if you wanted to, because there was still plenty of time between. Have a few drinks, get something to eat. There were no food vans there, were there, on that day?
No, that's the one.
Sometimes there is, like Ben Westwood's van sometimes been there. But you could get some food going. You could have, there was an artist on. Then get over to the main stadium at 5 to 8 and watch the main game. If it looks like, I mean, this is what it looks like it's headed towards, but if we end up with an equal share in the DW Stadium and Robin Park, as it seems like that's where we're heading, make it all one. Link them.
Yeah.
I know a few people say, oh, I go to the fan village until 5 to 8, and as soon as the match finishes, I'm back in the fan village because I want to give all the money I spend to Wigan Warriors. That's fair enough. But if you could link the two,
Yeah.
I would.
I would certainly look at that.
Look at the Blues, what they do. The centre of excellence, and then there's a tunnel underneath the road into the stadium. They run up into the stadium. That's pretty cool. You'll see that.
I don't think we can have a tunnel from Robin Park to DW.
But it's about that same distance though, and they warm up on what would be the Robin Park, the centre of excellence, because there's always a light show on the ANZ.
Yeah.
You see it next Wednesday when the Blues host, and they go under the tunnel, and everything's blue, all pictures of Blues legends, and then they run into the stadium.
But then, it would be a real thing to try and get a setup where it's consistent and you play your opposing team in the reserve games. So every Wigan team plays every Wakefield team this week.
Yeah.
This
would be a thing to do at Robin Park. I don't know. I mean, it just lends itself because it's next door.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if you could do it with other clubs who don't have that.
You wouldn't
They
want
don't want
3
to mess
games.
up the first team pitch beforehand on
and
the
you have to
same
have time
day
to
or
warm up.
whatever.
But go and rent in a cat. You're not telling me.
Well,
It has to be close by.
It goes back to what you said before. It's the fact that not every club has an academy or reserve team, and not every club has facilities.
The reserves did play this week, did they?
No, that's what I mean.
That's what I mean. And it's not every club has the facilities to have a training pitch or whatever, or a secondary pitch near to the ground or whatever. It's the situation as a sport we find ourselves.
We're very lucky to have that. So it's just something that could work for Wigan.
Definitely for Wigan. Yeah.
Not saying it's every time, but it's something that could work for Wigan. Who was it who suggested that? Alex G6 on Twitter suggested that if there was no academy, or if Huddersfield don't have a reserve team, whatever, there was no academy game, you could ask one of the local clubs to play. So Wigan Warriors Wigan Warriors reserves, it would be against Ince Rosebridge, Wigan St Pat's, whoever.
I think that could definitely work.
Could fill the gap, couldn't
But especially with some of the reserve games that I've seen being called off. I think, was it Hull FC have had 3 called off in a row?
Oh yeah, Hull FC
or
had
4 in a row.
Their opponents cancelled 4 times in a row, I think it was.
And it was something like, I think they got called off. They were playing on the Thursday and they got called off on the Wednesday at 9 o'clock. You're asking a lot to then try and find someone to fill in.
I've been to Penrith and watched them play, and then just before they played reserves against the Mounties or the Brumbies, whoever.
But let's just finish off our review of the game. We talked about Miski's 2 tries with the great hands from French, and then the great work from King to draw in Cudjoe.
And fantastic. Who flew out the line for the second Miski try? It was Bibby, wasn't it?
Yes.
He flew out at French, and Smith went over the top of them both. Very good work from Smith and King in those conditions to catch, draw, and pass.
Good centre play.
Good centre play. Yeah.
That's it. It's bog standard. It's nothing fancy, but it's just doing your job. Draw your man.
When it's pouring down and the ball's a bar of soap, that's what you need.
It's a bread and butter for a centre. That's what you do. That's what you get paid your money for. Draw your winger in, pass it to your winger, and let him score.
The third try was Fields. Some brilliant. We talked about the conditions and it being tough for our creative players to get going. But then 2 steps from Fields. The first one where he almost stops himself to come back towards the sticks, and then he steps again just to beat. Is it Ikahifor on
He
the
beats
inside?
Ikahifor on his outside and Hill on his inside. It's those two defended together. I think he probably spotted that.
But he just the pace from suddenly stepping and he's just gone. You can't catch him.
It's the 0 to top speed. That's what does it.
That acceleration off the
When he
mark,
stops,
isn't it?
yeah, when he stops dead, and everyone has to stop around him, he's the quickest to get going again.
It's a goose step, I think they call it.
Yeah.
Where you kind of slow down a little bit and then just take off straight away and just disturb you.
I'm
Defenders
going to
front.
say on this try, I was quite critical of one player for Huddersfield defensively, and I thought Lulla here backed off as Field comes from right to left.
Probably watching French like everybody else.
Lulla here sort of like he just doesn't commit, and they're not outnumbered at that point. It's 3v3, and he backs off and just gives Field the incentive to step inside. And you don't need to give that guy a chance.
You don't. I think it's so hard not to give him a chance. I think you're right in what you're saying, but I think you've got to just compliment Field and his ability and his athleticism. Because if you over chase and go too aggressive and too quick, he'll beat you with good footwork. If
Yeah.
you're passive and you lay off him, he'll do you. It's so hard to get it right when you're one on one with a player like Field. It's hard, and that's why again we're lucky to have
I
him.
think
But I do know what you mean. He should, as a team, Huddersfield could have defended that situation.
Yeah, I think I was just critical because it's 12 or 10-0 at that point.
They didn't show him a
5
set
minutes
line,
after
did they?
second half.
They didn't show him a set line.
Yeah, you almost just have to stick in that line and say, listen, we're not going to give you a gap to get through.
Yeah.
And as soon as a half a gap, he's gone.
He's good against desperate defence like that, isn't
There was 4 or 5 times where I went, oh, he's nearly got through, and
And
then
he slips.
and someone just tapped his ankle or something like that. That he's going to get a chance at some point. But finally for Wigan, Liam Marshall scored in the corner.
Oh, well, there was a yellow card.
A yellow card.
We were down to 12 when he scored, actually. Because Havard got yellow card on 60 minutes for a shoulder. Didn't wrap his arms. But it wasn't high and it wasn't late. So
He's
it
not
was
got
just,
a ban.
It wasn't a ban, and it was just a yellow card sufficient, I think, from the ref. Did all right, didn't he, the ref in this game? He did. He didn't have much to do, but that's probably a good sign.
Yeah, I didn't really see him loads.
I
I
don't
wasn't massively too involved. Who was the ref? Jack Smith?
Jack Smith was the ref, yeah.
The less you see the ref, I think that's a sign of a better game.
I couldn't remember. I had to look who it was then on my piece of paper. It was Jack Smith.
And
Yeah,
there
it's
was
probably a good
there was
sign.
nothing where you go, oh, he's missed that massively.
Well, it was a game that wasn't on the screen and it just flowed properly. Like,
Like it should.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's what you
I
want.
guess you're right. It's just
But then for the Marshall try,
Yeah.
again we skip right to left, probably 20 metres out. Jai puts in a kick, and I think at that point I said, why has that just landed in row Z?
no. You didn't understand the genius of
Yeah.
Sheffield doing the long kick so that it bounces funny.
Because as soon as it came off his foot, I thought this is flying dead. And then it bounces, holds up, and Marshall does unbelievably well to ground the ball before I think it's McGilvery gets across.
He kicked it. He didn't grubber it. He kicked it quite long on the first bounce, so it just slapped in the puddle.
Wet ground,
Yeah.
wet ground held it up.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of wet ground, that academy game, one bloke scored for Wigan, and he must have started sliding at the 20-metre line.
Oh, straight up into the in goal.
But the in goals were very short, and it's that running track around there, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they were quite worried, some of the players, and they were sliding in for a try,
And then
trying
trying to, like,
to
hold
get
themselves up.
trying to get up, then
Trying to
quick.
stop.
Yeah. So that's why he started sliding. I think he took the pass. It was a fullback. It was. He took the pass and just started sliding 15 metres out and scored.
So, anything else to say on this game, lads? Other than
Owen Trout was missing for Huddersfield. That's a bit fishy. I've been sitting on that since you went through the Huddersfield squad.
Well, he's moving club, isn't he? And it'll be a good catch for whoever picks him up.
oh lads,
You've got to do one now.
I really want to cut that.
You can't think of a fish pun, can you? That's why you're.
No, I can't. I can't think of a fish pun. No, not for Owen Trout. No. I'm really sorry
Let's
you
wrap
guys.
it up.
I'm really sorry you guys have had to listen to that because that is not the standard of comedy that we're trying to bring to this. Lewis, that was poor, man.
We've had some feedback from the viewers saying we need
You
to
wanted-
liven it up a bit.
you
So I
wanted
thought a couple of fish
More
dad,
jokes.
fish dad jokes.
They wanted something
Even though none
funny,
of us
though.
are dads, would do it well.
They wanted something funny though.
It was funny.
Oh my!
I liked it anyway.
We're gonna take a break though.
So you can murder Lewis.
Yeah, because I don't even know what to say. And to be honest, to be fair, I did throw my arms up like Jake Connor did for 80 minutes.
We'll be back to
Complaining
talk
at
about
absolutely everybody.
Warrington.
Yeah, we'll come back.
Warrington
look
and
at the-
Leeds after the break.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. So, we're going to have a look at the rest of Super League now. We're going to start off on Thursday. Matty's currently doing his best Darryl Powell impression and he's sat upstairs. Are you coming down or what? No, he's sitting there.
5 more minutes.
He don't want to face the music. He's getting his excuses ready.
I'm waiting for Sam and Moran to leave.
So, Lewis, it's just me and you for a minute. What was anyone expecting that? To that level of performance? Warrington lose at home to Leeds, 22 points to 6. The try scorers for Leeds were Richie Myler, Sam Walters, Ash Hanley got a double. The tries for Warrington was Matty Ashton. Stephen Rashford kicked the goal and Reece Martin kicked 3 out of 4 for Leeds. From winning the March Cup to now, it's a massive change, really, ain't it, Lewis?
It is, yeah. It's a. If I'm being honest, I'm going to sugarcoat it. It's bad from Warrington. It's poor. They've had a cup game where they've lost to 12 men.
Yeah.
Essentially, and they're at home in front of their own fans against the Leeds team struggling. All right, they've got no George Williams in this game. Obviously, he's a massive player for them. But it's one injury, and if you want to be competing for grand finals like Warrington do, you've got to have some depth in your squad. One injury can't throw you into these shocking performances. And to be fair, it was for me it was the defence. I know, but before we record the podcast, we go back through and watch the highlights and pick out bits we want to talk about. And sorry, because I know you're going to go through these probably in turn. But Ash Hanley's second try, for me, just epitomised it. It's a simple ball out the back from the ruck to Cameron Smith. He's allowed to he runs sideways. He doesn't even run forward and attract defenders. He just runs on a kind of angle sideways, throws a ball over the top. All right, it cuts a couple of people out. Then suddenly, there's a 2-on-1.
Yeah.
And he just manages to get it, and then Hanley goes over and touch. And I'm thinking, there was no bodies in motion, there was no set move. Cameron Smith literally just caught it, going, what am I doing with this? Ran sideways a bit, threw a nothing pass, and suddenly it's a 2-on-1 and they're down.
I'll throw this to you. That look at the position that some of them have took up. Dudson shoots in onto the first receiver for Leeds. It goes out the back to Cam Smith, who just drifts across the line. And then you look and Duffy stood in the line, Metalti has stood in the line, facing Cam Smith, and they have not got a clue about the numbers on the outside.
No.
And they've left the winger, was it Russell out on that wing? I think it was Russell out on that wing. 2-on-1. It's a simple over the top ball. You talk about players in motion, and we're going to talk about this quite a bit when we go into the NRL because of the scores that they've put up. But Richie Myler's try, they drift left to right, and Sam Walters runs at a gap. He just runs at a gap in the defence. One pass, and Myler's backing up. The try that Walters scored, they go through the hands. Myler hits a gap and gets through, and they're just backing up. It didn't feel like they had to work to get these tries. There was no.
It was easy. It looked easy for Leeds, I think, and I think that's why the Wire fans will be disappointed.
There was no. We've had to put on this player. We've put this kick in. Often you see teams when there's good defence, they score from kicks because it's a bit of uncontrolled chaos. If you can get a hand to it and knock it back and fumble it round, they didn't have to do anything like that. It was just there. Oh wait, he's here now. He's come downstairs, Matty. Do you wanna comment on Warrington's performance?
Well, last week or Darryl, if I'm still being Darryl,
Yeah.
said Wigan only scored from kicks or whatever he said, so they didn't break us down. Yeah, well, what about this week, Darryl? You got absolutely pumped at home, and then you didn't even go and speak to your team after the game. You sulked and you
In the box.
plastic box up at the top. Like, what other coach would you ever see do that? What other coach would we ever see singing Wigan songs
In a pub.
in a pub
8 weeks in.
8 weeks into the season after you've not even beat Wigan yet? You beat Catalan. There's no St Helens coach ever going to do that.
And you think...
There's no Wigan coach, no Leeds coach, never going to do that. What is he doing, Powell?
You've got to throw into the fact that...
He's got the keys to a Ferrari here and he can't even drive it. He can't even get it off the drive. He's being a terrible, terrible coach. And if I were... I'm so glad we don't have him as coach, by the way. If he were my coach, I'd be very, very unhappy. Because I just think he screams unprofessional. He screams too good, arrogant attitude. And he doesn't look in tune with his players. Otherwise, he would have been in there with them after the game.
I know I've talked about this before and I say it a lot to you guys. What the coach says after a game always tells you a lot about that guy as a person. I used to love Wayne's press conferences after a game because he was brutally honest. But whenever we'd lost, he took the blame and he said, "We've made mistakes, I've got to fix them." When we win, he'd step back, all the players have been really good today, a few things they couldn't work on, but how good has such and such a body been? And he'd put the praise onto them and he would take that. You're the top guy. You have to take the rough.
We've been beaten by Leeds before, and you know Pete or whoever it was would have been saying, well, we know what Leeds can do. We know they're a good side, but we should have been better. We should have been more ready for this game, and that's on my coaching staff and myself. We need to be better prepared next time we play them.
And we'll fix it.
Yeah, to this one, he was blaming the referee, he was blaming the Warrington supporters, he was blaming anybody but himself.
He's the worst coach in rugby I think I've ever seen for taking a loss.
Yeah.
Like, people, not just Wigan fans, I've seen again, other fans speak highly of Pete and say, do you know what, Wigan, you've got yourself a good coach there. He never looked rattled, he talks really well before and after games. I was impressed.
Showing similar
I was just about to say, I've been impressed with Wellens. Obviously, he's in his first season as an head coach. I know I watched when they lost to Hull FC on the Thursday night away at Hull, and he come on and he was very honest, said it wasn't good enough, said he was really disappointed for the fans who made the trek over to Hull on a Thursday to see a bad performance. Spoke really honest. Like you said there, Tom, like really kind of talks about the players. This group is a resilient bunch of players. These players are honest with themselves, and you know he says the right things. Powell, I've never heard him say something where I feel like he's got it ready. Like you said, Matt, it's either the ref's fault or last season. I know I've talked about this on the podcast before. Everything went bitter because he called the players out and said they're not good enough, whatever, and then he couldn't get them back on. He tried to get them back on side, saying, "Oh no, I think we're in a good place. I don't think we're a bit as bad as we said." But it's too late now, Dowell. You've already called them out and said they're not good enough. You can't take it back.
He's off.
Now he's called the fans out. He's
off,
blaming them.
Terrible.
I've never seen a coach like Jose Mourinho is the last thing to man who's like worse after a loss. Like, I've never.
But don't you think Jose does it to get a reaction from his players as well?
Possibly.
I just feel like Daryl's sulking.
Yeah,
It feels calculated. When you talk about Mourinho, it feels calculated.
Mourinho does it to get a response from his players and to get referee decisions the next time, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And it's worked for him in the past.
But
Darryl just sulking, not even with his
know.
team. I've never known a coach finish a match like that and not even go and speak to his players.
Well,
What must they have been thinking? What was Ryan Sheridan talking to them for 25 minutes? What were they
Who
going
would
to
lead
just
that
go?
conversation?
What happened?
Who would lead that conversation?
I genuinely don't know. Did they just get in the shower and go home? Like,
I've seen a podcast with Wayne where he does talk about sometimes. He says, I used to give him the silent treatment and I just used to walk in and sit down. And he said, because I like that, because the players would talk and the leaders would step up. But you'd still be in the blooming changing room. You'd walk in and listen to what was being said. So you can hear the conversations, you can chirp in, well, I agree with that, I don't agree with that. Well, listen, lads, you've got it half, right? This is what you've been doing for minutes.
And you're a team, and you're part of that team.
Exactly.
And you shoulder a lot of responsibility for that team. And when you sit up there in your box, up high on the stadium, and you do whatever you do there, talking to the person in there with you, talking to the camera, whatever, sit there moaning, sulking, basically. You send in a terrible message to your team.
Well, the team, the players, the fans, Carl Fitzpatrick and the chairman, like everybody else,
It
like
screamed at that
no
Lee
one would
Radford
look at
incident.
it. And
You're just sending the wrong message.
But there's two things that it screamed to me with the Lee Radford incident where he got sacked on Sky, that something was going to happen, and I went, it felt like he was getting ready to be sacked. The other thing is why not just move back? He can move to the back of that room and they can't see him.
Yeah.
He can go and wait in corridor if he wants.
Go.
But sat at
Going home.
sat at the window that you're there.
Yeah. You know the camera can show you there because you're always on the screen.
Tell Sky you're not doing an interview. Tell them I'm not doing it because I'm speaking to my players. You just can't. That's the one thing you can't do. Sit up there and complain and not be happy.
I don't get it.
Really, really bad.
I really don't
This
get
is
it.
his team. This is his team.
But you
George
wouldn't think
Williams,
that, would you?
Dufty. They've got a full-back in Dufty. Very, very quick and makes good decisions and a very good attacking full-back. Very poor defensively. And you move into halves and then wonder why he's getting beat. And we've not even mentioned in this, I think they were very lucky on that obstruction call because I think Dufty jumps across Austin. Dufty jumps across Austin to deal with the second rower. And I think it's... who played left second row? Bentley. He jumps across to deal with Bentley.
They both tackled Bentley, didn't they?
Yeah. I can't remember the man who was in from Dufty. It might have been Metality.
I get why it was.
I can get why it was
chopped
given
off.
obstruction, but I thought it was very harsh because Dufty's jumped across. And I've seen a few things from Ian Smith on Twitter, and I said, fair enough. I can get that. But
I think it
Dufty
was
made a very, very bad read.
Yeah, I think it was obstruction. But
The Toti are playing six. Like you said before about squad depth.
the fans are very annoyed with that.
If you want to be winning grand finals and competing for grand finals, one injury and you've got to put a centre in at 6 who it's like if there's no. Well, again, where's your academy products? Where's some strength in depth or another player could come
Riley
in
Dean
there
on
and do
loan, isn't he?
anything?
But is Dufty the best fullback? I am not a fan of fixing one issue by creating another.
Oh, you mean you've moved Dufty, so you need a new fullback?
So you now need a new fullback. And they put the young lad there at fullback.
Dealers.
Who I think is a very decent player.
Now you need another centre.
But now you need another centre.
Winger or wherever he was playing. He's
So
the
you have
best
to bring
player.
in Russell. And Russell does some good things. He makes a lot of meters.
Russell,
and does
yeah,
that.
Russell does what he does.
But you just ignoring the problem and moving it somewhere else. And then still not happy with Dufty. It was similar with what Wigan have done. But we were happy with either French or Field in the halves. At that time, one of them was going to play halfback, one of them was going to play fullback. It didn't create any other problems anywhere else. This has created a problem because you're now moving a centre that they were desperate to get back because they weren't happy with Ratchford and Metality being the centres. And the fullback. It just...
Well, I don't know what's going on, but let's have it keep on going on for another couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm certainly not complaining.
We play them soon, and if they turn into Brisbane Broncos circa 1994, then we're going to have egg on our faces. But Leeds, let's bring it back.
Yeah, let's
Leeds
bring it
did
back
well.
before we
Leeds
move on.
did well. Are Leeds going to do that thing they do every year where they all of a
I
sudden
hope not.
turn into
I hope
Peak
not.
at the right time.
yeah, peak at the right time? It seems like it. They've played well last 2 games. They played very well last 2 games. We don't play them for a while, I know, but they've played really well last couple of games. Walters. I mean,
Very
Wigan have beaten Warrington 2 weeks in a row because Walters got a try and an assist. So there you go.
Yeah.
Wigan have beaten them again.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Walters was fantastic.
There was.
We'll talk about him a bit more later, but yeah, he was very, very good.
I'm
All
just-
the forwards, I'm impressed with the forwards at Leeds 2 weeks in a row now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they made a lot of meters, and they just signed. Thingy again, he's been announced. The lad who came from Toulouse,
Sangare,
Sangari. They've announced until the end of 2025.
that's a good sign. That's
Then
a good
McDonald's,
extension.
although he's not a forward, but he's signed an extension
Oh,
for Leeds
It's
as
not
well.
like a forward.
bit of a weird
He's
one.
a big lad in here.
He's only played like half a season for him, and they've given him a 4-year deal.
He deserves it.
That's
Being
29.
Rowan Smith.
He's good. Yeah.
I think Rowan Smith's got a bit of an idea of what squad he wants because he's let some big players go, leaving
Yeah.
again who will come on to.
And
Again,
it
he was the
looks-
club captain
yeah.
at the time. He's let a couple of others go and he's signing some other people up on some big deals.
Looks
I think.
like he's going to let Austin go as well. Like Austin was interviewed, he was man of the match on this game, and he was interviewed and he said, "Oh, I'd love to stay at Leeds." And Rowan Smith was saying like, "Well,
He dodged that question
we'll
well,
have to
didn't
see."
he?
He dodged that question well.
But
Better than Kendall dodged that pass back inside from Walters.
But I've just got the stats up for Warrington. You're looking at the props that they've got. They should bully teams. Cassiano, Vaughan, Bullock, Philbin, Dudson.
No Harrison this week because he was banned.
No Harrison. Second rowers of Curry. And Tom Holroyd played there. I think he
He's
played.
put Cassiano on the bench as well,
He's
which
put Cassiano on the bench.
he's blamed losses on that
I know,
before that.
I
We
know.
had to start Cassiano and it's like,
Oh, I had to start Cassiano,
well,
so
yeah,
we
was
lost.
coming
that.
off the bench
You
today.
picked the team, Daryl.
But let me just tell you this. Sam Cassiano made 17 carries. Bear in mind, he came off the bench, played for about 10 minutes, got sin
That's a
binned.
decent number.
How many metres do you think he made out of 17
17 carries, let's say, 100 metres will be a decent effort.
Well, Ben Curry made 14 carries and made 93 metres.
Yeah, 100
Vaughan
metres.
made 14 carries and made 103. Cassiano made 17
Yeah,
and made 58 metres.
that's ridiculous. What was he doing?
And he only made 15 tackles.
He's 3 metres tall. He could have just caught it and fallen over.
Ratchford and Dufty made the same or more tackles than him. And he's made the most carries out of the props, out of any forward, and made 58 metres.
What if you compared that to the forwards for Leeds, who I was impressed with in this game? What did they have any standouts?
There was a couple of standouts. Let me just get onto it now and let me just check. You're looking at like Alexi, 15 carries, 89 metres. 12 carries, 89 metres. Bentley, a second rower, 9 carries, 50 metres. Reece Martin, 14 carries. I know he played centre in this game. But you then look at what they're doing defensively as well. Cameron Smith made 14 carries, 71 metres. So not much more metres, but made 30 tackles.
Yeah.
Sam Lissone, 11 carries, 77 metres.
What about our man Walters?
Sam Walters, 9 carries, 93 metres.
Very impressive. Very
and
impressive.
18 tackles.
Plus a try, plus an assist. Very good, very impressive.
I just look at that and go, that is not good enough. And this is a bloke who they've criticised because they've not been able to have him off the bench. He's come off the bench, then got sin-binned after 10 minutes, so he's had a 10-minute break.
Yeah.
And it's normally like on, off, on, off, on, off.
And he's had half
for the rest
time
of the game.
at times.
Then he's had half time. No, because he was back on before the end of half time. So he then had half time, went back out, came off, and went back on. He's played a substantial amount of minutes. And that just isn't good enough.
But he's also cost his team because when he came off for his yellow card, he couldn't put anybody else on. So he cost his team there. It was the same offence that Havard did, so he's not been banned either, has he? But
4 errors he made. And I don't want to just pick him, but this is a big import signing. They brought him in from Catalans to make their pack better. Paul Vaughan has made their pack better. That just isn't good enough. And it's a consistent pattern.
Points haven't been good enough last couple of weeks.
Definitely.
End it on that.
And
They need to find some form quick.
they're going to miss Williams as
If
well.
they want to keep putting it back in. I think he is meant to be back now. I think it was only
He's
a
been
1
named in
week.
the 21.
It was only, I think they said it was a hamstring issue, not like a big injury. I think he was feeling a bit of tightness or whatever. They didn't want to risk it. So they give him a week off.
How important is he for them? Because I don't even just mean how good he is going forward.
Oh, he's a good defender.
Defensively.
Defensively,
Williams
if
is
he gets
excellent.
injured and they have to rely on Matoti playing
Or Dufty.
7 or 6, or then put Dufty in there, whatever.
It's one of the reasons I'm so happy to have him playing for England. His defence is incredible.
Yeah.
One injury and why are
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They're in trouble anyway now. It's
Now,
He's saying like all this time, oh, at least we're top, or well, at least we're
Still
at least
in
we're level, at least we're only 2 points behind
fans
Castle.
will be getting frustrated.
They're dropping now like a stone. Like,
especially
they'll be
if
out of
they
the top
keep
6 if they lose next week.
So
Got to
let-
play Saints.
yeah.
Saints and Wigan don't get any easier.
So then, shall we move on and talk about the next game?
Yeah.
Sure.
We'll go over to the Be Well Support Stadium, Wakefield versus Salford. Now, a few people I spoke to who went to the Salford Wigan game said that Salford weren't impressive and Wigan didn't play particularly well but looked far better. I don't think anyone would have been brave enough to back Wakey, but back them by the scoreline of 32 points to 6. The tries for Wakefield, Lee Kershaw, Reece Lynn, Will Dagger, Liam Kerr, and Dagger kicked 8 goals.
Yeah.
Try scorer for Salford was Alex Gerrard and Mike Sneed obviously hitting that conversion. I know they're missing a good portion of the spine
Yeah.
in terms of
Briley was a head knock.
Briley.
Croft and Ackers are both missing again. So yeah, they're missing some key parts to their team.
But at the same time, I'm also sat thinking they're not missing loads in the backs. They're not missing loads of forwards. They're not completely ravaged. They have 3 big injuries, I'll admit, but they're still playing Reece Williams, Kensey, or Tim Laffey, Joe Burgess.
Well,
Mike Sneed's still there.
Did Kensio play full back? I assume.
Casey will
assume
play
so,
full back.
yeah.
Sorry, Chris Atkin was playing centre.
I assume so because then you would have Reece Williams. Oh,
You got to the bench, Ben Halliwell. Go to the forwards, Ben Halliwell, King Viniawa,
yeah.
Andrew Dixon, Dean
Dupree.
Cross, Ollie Partington, Sid Law, Gerard, Dupree,
Wait, what?
Longstaff on the
Dion
bench.
Cross was in the forwards,
Was named at second row.
and Chris Atkin was in the centre. That's
Well,
that's a half back in centre, so you can play.
I'm guessing that might be the Super League website.
It wouldn't be the first time they've got
But
it
it's
wrong.
named the bench as Sid Law, Gerard, Dupree, Longstaff. That's a strong bench.
Yeah.
That's a professional bench.
The big thing that stands out to me here, which is possibly why this result's turned out the way it has, Wakefield have scored 4 tries. Will Dagger has kicked 8 goals. I don't know if he's converted every single one of his tries. He did. So he's kicked 4 penalties. So that's
12 points. Still 20 points.
what
for
what I'm saying is it obviously looks like Salford's discipline. Was not at the races. If they've conceded 8 points, if they've given him the opportunity to kick 4 penalty goals,
8 points.
it shows the discipline was probably not at the races.
I know it's 8 points, but yeah.
They've actually done what Salford do with Sneed, where when games are close, they just kick goals and kick penalties and keep kicking penalties.
Wakefield, well, I think I said this before, half jokingly, but also half serious. We know Wakefield's attack's not that good. So if you've got the opportunity to take 2 points and keep the scoreboard ticking over,
Especially
you
those
know
conditions.
you find it hard to score tries, then yeah, take the 2 and keep the scoreboard ticking
Why
over.
not? No, next week they get Atkin back. Not Atkin, sorry. They get Ackers back. Croft, Brayley. They will be massive ins.
I'll be expecting a better performance from Salford.
But there's a lot of question marks, and unfortunately, it's any team. We said this about Leeds when they lost to them. Any team that loses to Wakefield has got some serious questions to look at about why that's happened.
Luke Gale.
Luke Gale's was back.
Luke Gale's fantastic. There's a couple of big forwards for Wakefield that were rolling him as well. All of a sudden, you've got a little bit of doubt in your mind about next week, thinking, hang on, these forwards that we've made look good in the past, they're going to be rolling down the field and
Could get interest at the bottom of the table now,
Very.
with Wakefield picking up another win. We're about to move on to the Castleford game.
still
They've
to
lost
play each
St.
other as well.
Still to play each other.
The Be Well
So
Supposed
this could make that bottom of the table a bit interesting.
Could be. Well, it'd be good if there's some jeopardy at both ends.
Yeah.
Should we talk about the other team then that's in that relegation battle?
Cass
Because
Tigers.
round 17 didn't get much easier for Cass, and they went to St Helens. Saints with a very, very professional win, 22 points to 0.
Yeah. Similar conditions to us.
Very similar conditions, obviously.
Similar win, really.
Percival, Benison, Wellesby and Metalia getting the tries. Percival kicking 3 goals.
I saw that Wellesby try. It looked like he was going through a swimming pool. It was that wet through.
But a professional win. To get a point, it's very rare you don't get one. Salford got 1. You always pick up 1. Hull KR picked up 1.
Yeah, Huddersfield against us.
Yeah. When you're 20 points ahead, it's not like they've won it 6-0.
No, it is. Yeah, I know what you mean.
You would expect it 20 points to 0. You throw a ball round, half a chance, and bang.
Nothing doing for Castleford in this game.
Nothing doing for them in this game. Saints, a very professional win. They did the job. Similar to our situation, bad weather, and you just go get the 2 points and get home.
Yeah. Saints are now 2 points below Lee and ourselves.
Yeah.
And they've got a game in hand against Huddersfield, I believe.
Yes, they have, yeah.
So you could, I mean, with the way those two teams are playing, you could put them up alongside us and Lee, and they've got a similar points difference to both as well. So the top of this table is looking very, very tasty at the moment.
Well, Catalans are sort of running away with it on 26.
Well, that's only two.
It's only 4 points.
It's only 2 wins.
You've then got Lee, Wigan, and Warrington all on 22.
22. Saints on 20.
Saints on 20 with a game in hand.
Yep.
And if they win that, they go above us on points difference. But Saints play Warrington next week.
I know.
So Warrington could be...
I know, but then we play Warrington. So Warrington, if they lose those back to back, but they get beat by Saints and they get beat by us.
And Salford are on 20.
Where do Warrington end up?
We've said this week after week, but I'm going to reiterate it. This season of Super League is so good, just because it's that competitive. everybody's beating everybody.
Yeah.
The some games you can't call. Games that used to be an easy 2 points aren't an easy 2 points anymore. But it's just making, especially like we just said, now at the bottom of the table, possibly getting a bit more interesting.
It's
as
about
well.
which team is going to peak at the right time.
It is. It's getting very tasty.
I always like comparing the points to how many you could get. In 17 games, so you could have 34 points. That means everyone bar Catalan has dropped 12 points. They've lost 6 games somewhere on the season, minimum. Catalans have lost 4 games. One of them was to Warrington at the start of the season when Warrington had won the March Cup. Sorry for bringing that up, but they lost to Warrington again in the Cup.
Yeah.
Well, their 2 losses have been Huddersfield and Salford.
Who's?
Catalans.
Oh no, they lost against Leeds as well.
That's what I mean. Teams that are actually at the 6 or down. They beat Wigan, they beat Saints, they beat Wire, they beat Lee.
Yeah. They beat Leeds
It's
twice.
really strong up there.
It's a good thing that of Catalan, because they'll be thinking now we're beating the good teams.
Catalan are set up, aren't they?
They'll be thinking like, well, we know now, and a big day like if you flip that, Warrington, even if they do manage to find some good form, they've not yet beat a Saints or Wigan this season. So if they did come up against them in a final or a semi or whatever it might, obviously I know they're at the cup now, but in a semi-final or grand final, that just might live in the back of their heads that they've not beat a big team yet this season.
Think about the way this season started with Warrington against Leeds. We're back on those 2 teams again, I know, but where there was all that sort of trepidation about Warrington had come second to bottom and should have been relegated
And Leeds got grand final.
if we were actually giving Toulouse the exemption Catalan got. And Leeds had made the grand final, yeah. For Warrington to just walk all over Leeds on that opening round, it was like a statement, wasn't it?
There's been a lot of statement games this year where you've got, that's a big win. And
But
to
then
be fair,
again, the week after, you don't know if that big win's going to be backed up because it's so competitive this season
I know.
with teams, and it's making for a really good season.
we're talking about big wins, and the next game we're going to talk about was probably a big statement win because Hull KR have had the better of Lee in recent history. They've beaten twice already, and Lee produced a performance. And although you watch this game quite in detail,
Yes.
Lee win 34 points to 4.
They did. Hull KR got mauled by the Leopards.
That doesn't work.
They were,
Doesn't work. But weird things like, what was Mikey Lewis doing?
He went in for the 2-footing slant challenge.
I genuinely don't know what he was doing.
But the fact he looked at the ref and just went, "What?"
I know.
What?
I know. And I saw some people saying he should never have been sin-binned. What? Even if he didn't 2-foot him, he still stopped the restart. Briscoe watched the ball go out, waited a bit, picked it up, turned around and started running, and then just got 2-footed.
And
It wasn't even just... It was,
the weird thing for me,
It was GBH. It was
the ball had bounced 3 times, been picked up and carried back over the line.
if it's a slip, and I'm not saying he's not slipped, but you took your feet in. You took your feet up and go, sorry, and you're shouting, aren't you, to say, I've slipped, I can't stop myself. It's not the sole Campbell never-ending slide tackle at Wembley.
He's still going then.
You know what I mean? Like, you do stop.
He's in Hull now.
I know. You'll have to stop, son, otherwise you'll end up in the sea.
You do stop, don't you? And if you've slipped and you can see you're crashing into a player, you give him a shout or something. You don't crash into him with your studs up.
It was bad. But let's get on to the rugby. It was a very good performance this Saturday. They've been impressing with the attack all season, haven't they? Because they've been. I know you said before, Matty, you're a fan of that little move they put on where they managed to get out wide to Churnley.
Yeah.
They did a lot of this game going back in at the ruck. I said this to Tom before when I was watching the games. Even like, I mean, they got some tries from going back at the ruck, but every time they kept it in little inside balls and little drop-offs back on the inside, and that allowed a Pape to come back and make some breaks. Lachlan Lamb, he was making breaks as well. Lachlan Lamb was very impressive. He seemed to touch the ball at the right times. He didn't kind of have his hands on everything, but he was there when he needed to be.
That's
and every time he needed, he just kind of filtered in when he needed to. He knew when to filter in, and just got his hands on the ball at the right time. And they were really good, Lee. They're off to a fly, aren't they? They're having an absolutely brilliant season for them. And
I'm going to
I'll be
jump
really
ahead just while you talk about Lachlan Lamb. Obviously, he's playing in the halves. and I agree that he doesn't get over involved. He's not demanding the ball every tackle.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how he steps up in the Challenge Cup semi-final. And if Lee are going to go on, he has to stand up and be accounted more as a general than the creative player that he's been seen. You look at all the top teams who marches them around the field. Harry Smith does it for us.
Dodd for St Helens.
With Lomax, where they control the game and they put the game in the right place.
Oh, Catalan. Oh, Sam Tompkins is the best general, isn't he?
Yeah, but alongside that,
Mitchell Pearce.
you've got Mitchell Pearce, who's brilliant in them big moments. That's my only question about Leo. When that game's 6-6 and you need to get into an arm wrestle and kick into the corners and pin teams here, who stands up and is that general for them? And I think Lachlan Lamb has the ability to do it. I'm not doubting that. It'll just be interesting to see in the semi-final when they've got to play Saints.
When they played us, they were a bit naive with that, and obviously they've had some excellent wins against some excellent teams. So they have fixed that up. But yeah, it's gonna. I think it's gonna be a good game, that semi-final.
It is.
It's going to be an
very
absolute
good
belter.
game.
I'm at a wedding that day, but that's why I was glad we got the Sunday game. But I think it's going to be an absolute belter, that game.
It will.
But also playing for Lee, he's probably the form prop of the comp at the moment, Robbie Mulhern.
I thought you were going to say just sold my car to John Asiata. You see the guy that got that tattooed on his backside?
No.
Beaumont invited him into the corporate box.
I saw the guy at Catalans who...
Probably be on the back of Beaumont's blazer next year or something.
Just sold my car to John Asiata.
But there's some real players putting in big performances that you almost wouldn't expect.
Ed Chamberlain.
Ed Chamberlain, Shanley, and I know he's been a good one, but at 32, 33 he's finding his form of being 21, 22, 23 again, scoring tries for fun.
People asking the question, should he be in the England squad for the Tonga tests? It's hard because it's a competitive we're making soon with Dom Young and Tom Johnston.
Tom Davis.
Tom Davis for Catalans.
Marshall will be close.
It's very competitive.
Blessed with good wingers, aren't
but
Personally, I wouldn't go back to Charnley. This is my opinion, because...
I can see why his name's being put in the hat though.
Yeah,
He's
I
having
agree.
a good
He
season.
was the top try scorer, isn't he?
But it's
Well,
not
close
like
enough
he's, for me,
to
it's
make
not
no
like he's
difference.
10. It's not like he's 10 clear. Johnston's still there. Makinson's in and around that number. Dom Young in the NRL is around that number.
Ken Seal's not far off.
You know what I
I know he's
mean?
not English, but Ken Seal's got a lot of tries.
So
No
I would be reserved to go away from someone
Yeah.
to go back to someone who's 32.
And I think Wayne is planning for as much as I know he'll want to win the Tonga test and that'll be in his mind, I think he also, like a bit with the France game, he was picking Young. I know obviously a lot
But I
of
wouldn't
people
be worried
pulled
if he
out of
played.
that.
If Dom Young
But-
and Makinson are available, those are the two wingers for England.
Yeah, I'd agree.
But again, wouldn't be worried if he did play. I
No.
think that's where we're quite blessed in
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Now we're going to go on to the last game over in Hull. It was Hull FC vs Catalans.
This was one of those ones you had to pay extra for in our league, isn't it?
Yeah.
I didn't buy it, but
But it was quite an interesting position. Catalans have been on this winning streak and they've been winning really strong at home and doing the job away from home. Hull have turned around their fortunes and we said, listen, it's not going to be a plain sailing for them. They're not going to go from not winning a game for the first however many weeks or winning one and then not winning for ages.
we were back in Uncle Tony though.
Yeah, we backed him to turn it around. But we also were quite fair in saying that they are going to have games where they get beat. This is a side that's got a long way to go. And I think Catalans being the team that they are, where they are so strong, so physical, and got the generals in there.
Yeah, they were going to win this game, and they did. They did well to win this game. I'm once again impressed with the Dragons. Yeah.
I don't think Hull will be that disappointed. Half time was 22-18, so they were competitive, only 4 points in it. They'll be disappointed they haven't managed to get a point in the second half.
Yeah, but they were in
Catalan's
this
gone
one
to get 6,
Yeah.
but they were in it all the way. It was competitive. Cat on the top of the league
Well, that's
doing
what I was
well.
going to throw back. I know they haven't got a point in the second half.
Well, they've only conceded
They've
six.
only conceded one to
Yeah,
Catalan.
yeah.
One try.
A couple of, well, I say a couple. Early on in this season, you wouldn't have been surprised if they would have got nilled and Catalan would have battered them. Because they were playing poorly.
40-0, 40 points
No,
to
even
6.
if it was close at half time.
And that's what I mean. Back,
Even if it was close after
back then,
after an
if I'd
hour.
have asked you, in the form Hull was in, do you think you know, they only lose to Catalan by 10, you'd be like, no, I'm backing Catalan by maybe 20-30.
Yeah.
So I think they're being competitive. They're the top of the league, Catalan. I think Tony Smith will say, we'll take the loss, we'll learn from it, we go on to next week. I don't think it's going to disrupt the season too much.
Catalan are primed for an almighty run at these playoffs. That they're not in the cup anymore.
They've got a points gap, so they can just.
They've got a bit of a points gap. They've got
squad depth.
their squad is set up to win now. Not to win in 3 years, not to win in next year.
Yeah.
Their squad is set up to win now. This is their biggest chance for a long time. It would be
gotta
good
say-
if they got. It would be good if they got there for the game for French Rugby League, but obviously I'm hoping another team wins it. But yeah,
I'm
Good
impressed
for
at how many
Catalan.
French players they're starting to bring in, and
they've got so many. They're loaning them out to Hull KR.
yeah,
And by the way, what was that fullback doing for that 40-20? Xenon, that Catalan fullback they've sent on loan to Hull KR. One bloke kicked a 40-20 and he just let it roll out. 40-20, you gotta hustle to keep that in.
but try scorers for Hull were Swift, who he's off as well, isn't he? Is he off to Huddersfield? I've heard.
I don't know. He's
I'm
off,
sure I've
but
heard-
he's off, but I don't.
I'm sure I've heard that they're looking at him for Huddersfield.
Yeah, Hull signed a winger, didn't they? And I said, well, that's Adam Swift off then, and then it actually came true that he was leaving.
But Daniel McIntosh and Chris Satai, Jake Clifford kicking 3 goals.
Chris Satai signed for the Catalan Dragons as well, hasn't he?
Yes,
I think for next season,
He's going to join his old mate, Manu Mao.
But Jake Clifford's really starting to get his
Stepped up, Clifford. And I know very early on in the season, in one of the early podcasts, I think, where you called out when Hull FC were having a bad spell, me and you, Tom, I think this was when Matty was away,
It was
we
where
called out the Australian imports and said Texon and Clifford weren't stepping up. Well, Clifford definitely is doing now.
Oh yeah, Huddersfield have signed Adam Swift.
Yeah, thought so. Try scorers for Huddersfield, for Catalan, sorry, were Tom Davies got 2, Johnston got a try, Busquet got a try, and Artur Ramon with 1. Artur Morg kicking 4 of the 5 attempts that he had. And that wraps up Super League, which is really interesting. 17 rounds in, 10 rounds left.
Yeah, we don't have the Man of Steel points anymore because we're over halfway.
It'll be interesting to see what people think and who they think is going to win.
I
now.
don't know who's ahead. I couldn't even guess at who's top of that at the minute.
I would be looking at a team maybe in the position of 6 to 7.
I just don't know who would be top of that, and I couldn't even give you a good guess. I'd have to think about it for a long time.
Definitely agree.
I don't know.
We're going to take a quick break though, and we're going to come back with the NRL, where it has been an absolute points-a-thon.
Points fest.
No, I'm leaving it at points-a-thon. So there's a lot to talk about there, and some very worrying signs for some clubs, shall we say. So thank you for listening, and we'll be back very shortly. So lads, there's been a lot of points this week in the NRL. Defence is not really on top in these games, I would say. Let's start off on Thursday at Shark Park. It was the Sharks versus the Dragons. A lot of talk going on around the Dragons about Ben Hunt. Will he stay? Will he leave? Is he off to Brisbane for mid-season, then to the Titans? No one really knows, do they? They got told that they're not going to release him. Someone's going to have to put a bid in for him and pay big money for him. And sometimes you hope that this galvanises your team, really, don't you? A bit of controversy and all the rest of the team will come together. It didn't happen at Shark Park. Cronulla come out 52 points to 16. They were far and away the dominant side.
Yeah, but they're just a better team than the Dragons. We've spoken about the Dragons before. They're just not a good team, and the Sharks are a good team. So I'm not surprised that this was a 50-point performance from the Sharks.
We've said before, besides Ben Hunt's obviously a big star. I like that Zach Lomax. I think he's a good player at the centres. I think he's good.
They've got a few decent
Jack
players.
DeBellin, is it, at 13?
Yeah.
I think he's quite good. But I've said it before, it was a while ago now, but I'll kind of reiterate it. I still think on paper they've just not got the same calibre of players and big stars that some of the other teams have got.
They've not.
Unless there's a lot of these young lads that are going to develop, I'd be worried if they're at the cap. Sharks.
No, they'll not be
doing
at the
well.
cap.
They might be disappointed that they conceded 16 points to the Dragons. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah. Well, the
defence has just been a bit off.
They just won it easily though. The Sharks. It was an easy win. They'll be just moving on.
Yeah. Now to teams in different form, really. New Zealand Warriors versus the Rabbitohs. And the Warriors have been one of the form teams the last 4 or 5 weeks, winning strong and winning convincingly. And the Rabbitohs were off to a brilliant start, but have dropped off during the Origin
they
period.
lost the last couple, didn't they? The Rabbitohs.
They struggled through the Origin period, the first 2 weeks of the Origin period. Put a convincing win in, 28 points to 6.
Yeah, it's not a difficult place to play as well in all.
Am I right as well? I saw something on Instagram. Tom Burgess, the Englishman, captained the
Yes, he
Bunnies
did, yeah.
for this game. He was the captain.
Yeah.
He said that. I saw on his Instagram, so it was an honour to lead the club out and stuff. So nice, but see ya.
2 England players as captains, because we'll talk about Bateman in a bit, but he was named captain this week as well.
Was he of the Tigers? I didn't know that.
So it's
Yeah.
interesting that there's a couple of English lads now being trusted with the captaincy. I know Whitehead is always Raiders co-captain.
And Hodgson was the captain of Canberra when he was there, when I think he captained them a couple
there was
of
a
times.
few. There was a few captains. Like they always have Croker as captain and Whitehead.
Right, okay.
So just Ricky likes to have
Good
two
to see.
captains.
Good to see someone.
But that,
yeah.
but that
But
for
it's
the
only good for
Rabbitohs
the
is
game, innit?
Yeah.
Good for English rugby league.
that from the Rabbitohs though is a very, very good win.
It is,
good
yeah.
performance.
They had to get back on the winning
They
circuit
did.
soon.
And away in New Zealand is
We questioned how Jason Demetriou was going to get his side back going, and they're still missing Trell Mitch, which is a massive out.
Is he injured? Is he? Still?
Well, he was injured. And
He was injured because he pulled out of Origin, didn't he?
pulled out of game 1. They named him in the game 2, and then he pulled out again. So whether he redid it, I don't know if he redid something.
Carried enough.
Well, he's not been named for game 3, which is next Wednesday.
Yeah, he won't play then, and they
he's not
said
gonna
they
play
said
this
it's going to be at
weekend.
least another 2 weeks after that, from what I've read.
But if he comes back and he's firing, it's the right time of the season for him to have had a nice little
break.
Yeah, for the Rabbitohs, I mean, not for Latrell or the Blues, because they could have done with it. But for the Rabbits, might be the right time for him to have a bit of a resurgence. If he comes back and he's fit and firing.
Yeah.
I think it's probably an obvious statement, but I think he's been a very big loss for the Blues. Latrell Mitchell.
Yeah,
I think
for
if
the
he
Blues,
comes
yeah.
back in,
I think with Cook as well, because Cook didn't play the first game, but once he named it 18th man, or he was named, he was in the camp, so he missed the game, and then
I think he played. That. He wasn't 18th man.
no, he didn't play game 1, did he?
No, he played for the Rabbitohs when game 1 was on.
Did he?
Cook,
Did he?
But game 2 he didn't.
Another miss, and there's the talks of Campbell Graham going to go into the side, and then talks around Cody Walker, would he go in? There's just been a little bit.
And they always
I
miss more.
don't want to kind of get us off topic, but he's completely chopped and changed. The new South, Brad Fiddler.
Yeah.
He's completely chopped and changed his side for game 3.
Trying to save his job, isn't
No, he was quite open and saying this might be some player's last game. There's talks, is it going to be like Teddy's last game
he?
ever as an Origin captain?
If you were watching this series, though, you'd probably say that was about right.
Yeah.
Given the strength of fullbacks they've got, still not picked Dylan Edwards.
I think Tedesco deserves this last game. He deserves to go out
Well,
playing a series.
Gutherson's playing though, isn't he? Not a fullback, but Gutherson's playing.
Is he? He's on the bench, isn't
He's on
he?
the bench.
He's on the bench, yeah.
But he can play centre, can't he? He's played centre at that
Gutherson
level.
can play in the halves as well.
He's probably a better utility than having Damien Cook on the bench
Or Nico.
or Nico, because he can play full back. He could probably fit in the half somewhere. He
Yeah.
could probably fit in.
Interesting. So he's got rid of Hudson Young as well. I don't think he did that much wrong, Hudson Young, to be honest. But
When you lose 2 games that poorly, there's got to be people cut. And I was amazed there wasn't more cut after game 1. But let's move over to a top of the table clash. Really, they're not 1 and 2, but they're in the top 4. Both these teams, the Storm and the Panthers. Panthers winning 34 points to 16.
yeah, Panthers without Cleary, big win.
Big win, that.
They were losing as well, weren't they?
Weren't the Storm missing Grant and Munster? I don't think either of them played.
I know, but they took an early lead to Storm.
Yeah, they did.
So it was a good comeback from the Panthers. I think it was 14-0, I think, to the Storm. So yeah, good win for the Panthers. Missing Cleary, losing away from home. They've done well there.
Is there any talks about when Cleary's going to be back?
I've not seen anything from when Cleary's going to be back. I assume it's another at least month.
Because I didn't see anything saying it's going to be 8 weeks. There was no like.
Oh well, how many weeks has it been now, do you reckon?
It was the week after game 1, so probably just over a month. I'd go 5 weeks. He's been out now. But at the time, there was no saying he'll be out for 2 months.
No, it was indefinite, wasn't it?
So
I don't know.
that'll be an interesting one. Now, probably one of the closest games of the week. The Raiders versus the Gold Coast Titans.
The Raiders can't play in a game if it's going to finish with a 10-point margin.
Yeah.
They have to win by 6 or fewer, or they have to lose by 6 or fewer.
Yeah, they don't like being a comfortable distance.
The Raiders don't have any comfortable wins or defeats usually. The Raiders are climbing up that table. You know, I said at the start, when we started this podcast, they've played all the most difficult teams They're down near the bottom. They were like 14th, 15th then. I think they're 5th now. Looking up at 4th because they've put a really good run together.
They're just playing dogged, determined football for me. They're just playing a confident style. They're playing a way that they know how to play. Not overcomplicating things really for me.
I saw somewhere Brad Schneider is
It's all KR,
going
isn't
to Hull KR for the rest of the season. That's an interesting one. I think they see Brad Schneider as the Whiten replacement.
it? And they need him some game
And they
time.
need him some game time for the rest of the season. So that's going to be an interesting... You don't often see loans from NRL clubs to Super League clubs for the rest of the season, do you?
Now, can we just talk about the other team in this game, the Titans? They've just allowed, is it Toby Sexton to leave? A very highly rated youngster.
I do rate him.
And they've now announced it's Des Hasler taking over, haven't they? To
Well,
replace-
Des was announced to take over on the morning of the Holbrook sacking. It was always going to be
I
Des.
missed that, sorry.
Yeah, it was always going to be Des.
No.
Do you think Holbrook deserved to be sacked?
Nope.
No.
No, I think it was a very weird one. That.
It was a KPI. He had to be in the top 8 after round 15 or something like that, and he was in 9th
On points difference.
on points difference. He was level on points with 8th, and he was 2 points behind, like 3rd or 4th in the table. So to hold him to that KPI,
So that was a clause in his contract.
yeah. I get it. Okay, that was in his
The
contract.
worrying
It was a
thing for me,
KPI,
though,
but that, I
is
mean,
that-
they won the next game and they were in the top 8. So I don't know.
The worrying thing for me about the Titans has always been that they don't defend well for long periods. I can't remember the last time I saw them win a game like 10-6. It always feels like it has to be a points fest, and I know the weather's always good up in Gold Coast, and you play on dry tracks, and you've got so many star players in Brimson and Sexton and all these players.
Campbell,
Yeah, Jaden Campbell.
Fifita.
But for me, it was screaming out for a defensive mindset. A bit like the Rabbitohs, where they play a game of we'll beat you by however many. You score 30, we'll get 32. I get that feeling with the Titans, but not good enough defensively and not good enough attackingly to play that way.
Well,
Not
there's
like
been
the
a game.
Rabbitohs.
Hasn't there been a game this year where the Titans have scored 40 points and still lost?
Yeah, I think
Or
they lost
38 or
42-40 or
something.
something like that.
That was just ridiculous. That.
It was a real. They just worry me, and I just think. I don't think he's helped himself there because everyone knows that's what he needed to fix.
What do you think
Where
about Hasler then? Being that guy to fix that? I don't know.
He's won a premiership.
Yeah.
He's won a premiership. That's massive.
He also ripped a door off his hinges. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. Des Hasler ripped a door.
Who was he coach of when he won the
Man,
Yeah, man.
with Manly?
his first spell, I think.
It's a weird one, I think, this one, because the Titans, it wasn't that long ago when the Titans were essentially guaranteed the wooden spoon every year in the NRL.
Yeah.
And in what I think is a relatively short space of time, they've gone from literally winning the wooden spoon every single... I think there's even talk of, they said to him, you cannot finish bottom or else you're going to literally, like, your place in the NRL was at stake. He's then got them not just not finishing bottom, but actually competing for the top 8.
I think it's an incredibly harsh side.
I do, I think
It's a statement of intent by the owners, and I saw the Matty Johns show. They were talking about it like it's a sign that 8th isn't good enough.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's a really competitive league this year. The Titans have not been that guy in the past. Have they ever made the finals?
Well,
If they
that's
have,
it,
they've never
yeah.
made a semi-final.
Well,
just
under Justin Holbrook, he came in 20.
Yeah.
Obviously, that was the COVID season. Played won 9 and lost 11, finished 9th. 2021, he finished 8th, got knocked out in the first game.
before Holbrook, I don't think they'd been in the finals.
Well,
or if
I'm
they had,
just
they'd
gonna-
not.
well, not for a long time.
They'd not for a long time.
In 2022, they finished 13th under Holbrook. That's put a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah.
Going from 9th, 8th to 13th.
I know, but they were 9th when they sacked him. On
Well,
points difference.
But let's have a look at what they've had from the first season was 2007. Sorry, they finished 12th, 13th. They've had a 3rd place finish and got to a semi, 4th place and got to a prelim.
This is Scott Prince
In
territory.
2010, the year after, got the wooden spoon. 12, 11, they finished 11th, 9th, 14th, 14th. So 5 years without getting in, they finished 8th, then 15th, 14th, wooden spoon. And Holbrook came in after
They
the
got the
3
wooden
years. The 3 years previous were 15th, 14th, and wooden spoon. So second bottom, third bottom, and bottom.
Well, that's what Holbrook walked into, and he got them playing in 9th.
like I say, signed some big names like David Fafita and
Kept hold of him as well.
Yeah, kept hold. I don't know.
Every club
Like I
was
say, I
looking for
can't-
his signature.
Yeah,
But
I
they
think
they've
it's.
spent a lot of money on him. Is he not like 1.2 million?
He's expensive,
1.25?
but he deserves it. He's good, isn't he?
Kieran Thornton's been a massive signing for them.
Yeah,
he's made
Thornton.
Fafita a better player.
I don't get the sacking. Okay, he hasn't met your KPI, but he basically has
Points
anyway. He's on points
difference,
difference.
yeah,
against
that's
KPI, and
But
you can say
I know I'm not a businessman, but I sit and I wonder. Well, you made that agreement. You said you signed the contract with that in.
I know, but the grass isn't always greener, mate. I don't know.
No, and I wonder whether because Hasler was available.
Is Des Hasler going to make this team finish in the top 8 every year? Don't know. Are they now a weaker team for the rest of this season, having sacked Holbrook because they don't got Hasler in now? Yes. Are they more or less likely to reach the playoffs now than they were before they sacked Justin
But
Holbrook?
let's say
It's
they
interesting. We did the whole bit just before they sacked him. We did the whole bit about the odds, and I was saying why are the odds for the Titans so poor when they're 9th and the Roosters are 3 places lower than they were only 20-1, and the Titans were like 125-1. Maybe the
Maybe they knew
bookmakers
about that.
knew that there was
An issue there.
an issue for Holbrook.
I just wonder if you're the Titans and you're looking around and you've got this clause in his contract that you're aware of, and Des Hasler's available, a Premiership winning coach. Do you wait?
Desi would have been available at the end of the year.
Would you wait to see whether a Tigers try and get him, or maybe a Bulldogs sign him up as an assistant?
The Bulldogs are pretty set with Cyril, though. He's not going to go anywhere because he's in a long-term
But Des
build.
Hasler would make a very, very good assistant somewhere.
I don't think he'd take that. I don't think he'd take that job. Realistically, the Roosters aren't moving off Robinson, are they? I don't think they are. The Bulldogs aren't moving. Dolphins aren't moving. They've got the succession plan. The Tigers aren't moving off their succession plan. The Dragons have already announced who's going to take over for them. Genuinely, what job is there for Desi? Raiders, if they don't make the top 8. It looks like they will.
Yeah. The only thing is now is it does
job,
put some
maybe?
pressure on a few Super League clubs. I'd be looking at Huddersfield, and I'd be looking at Warrington.
Yeah, it does put pressure on them, but Holbrook's already said he wants to stay in Australia. And
It's very difficult though if you don't have a job.
I don't know.
And all them coaches will have an assistant. Would they want to bring in another assistant who could potentially take over and has experience if something goes wrong?
You might have to drop down to like Rowan Smith did.
Maybe. Right, let's move on. The biggest, most shocking result of the week. The last time these two teams played, the West Tigers won 66 points to 6. Was it 6? Did they get one in the end?
They did score.
I think yes.
The Cowboys have come out
Might have been
with
10.
a mission. On a mission.
Yeah.
74-0.
Yeah.
The Cowboys have won against the West Tigers.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not a fan of saying this, but after 5 minutes, when that first try went in, it looked like they give up.
Well, they definitely gave up when it was 40-something. At half time, they gave up.
And I watched the Cowboys, and I said this to you, Lewis. I said, they've not done anything massively special. They've just ran at gaps. They've ran into space. They've worked hard. They've not put on 10 trick plays. When the West won 2 months back, they were throwing all these trick plays on the inside and throwing different attacking shapes at the Cowboys. The Cowboys have just beat them today, in my opinion, by just working harder. They've just run at gaps harder, made people miss tackles.
This game was 42-0 at half time, and it was 0-0 after 15 minutes. What an explosion that is of points.
That's what I mean. There's some tries, if you go and watch the highlights, they're just running into open gaps, and you're going, where is someone?
Yeah.
Where is he to make a tackle? John Bateman captained this game.
Yeah.
If Wigan defended that way, I would be so disappointed.
It's. I wonder if this has happened before, where West Tigers, a team batters a team, and then in the reverse fixture, the other team batters them and gets the revenge. I can't remember this happening.
Not
and it
not to
wasn't
them
that
scores.
long ago.
It was only.
It weren't that many weeks ago that these two teams met.
Less than 2 months, maybe.
So that is it's really.
And it was
strange.
like the Cowboys put 50 on the Storm. Was it the week before or the week after? Something. It's just a weird time to be a Cowboys fan this year, isn't it?
But with that, obviously West had a bye week last week.
Yeah, and John Bateman came home.
Didn't John Bateman come home? I was just going to say
Yeah, he did.
he came home and then went back and then he's playing, and that doesn't. It's a long way to go. You're not just nipping over to New Zealand.
No.
It's not like us just nipping to France. 24 hours, 2 days of your time taken up to come back, and I'm guessing he would have gone straight after the game. They played.
Well,
he
he
would
did-
needed to be
yeah.
back.
He'd come back for the captain's run, so he would have been 2 days before the game.
That doesn't feel right
No, I know.
at all. Now he might have something in his contract that says he wants to come back home during a bye week.
Well, the club have obviously okayed it.
That's what I mean. It
Just
just
give him
doesn't
the
feel
captaincy.
right though. Doesn't feel right.
The fans aren't happy.
No. Now, a game played someone new. The Broncos versus the Dolphins at the Gabba.
Oh yeah, if you someone said 74-0, that's a good opening partnership at the Gabba, but actually it wasn't this game.
Yeah.
I'd be worried if you were 24 for 16.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a difficult morning, that isn't it? It's a difficult morning, especially if you've won the toss. 24 for 16 on the Gabba.
but they actually sold out the Gabba.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Is it 68,000 seats
Yeah,
or something
yeah.
stupid like that?
Good effort.
They've sold it out. The Broncos winning 24-16. Both teams were really, really competitive.
Yeah.
I thought it was a brilliant game.
Both these Battle of Brisbanes have been won by Brisbane close,
Yeah.
but isn't it good to see that they've got a little brother that can
Could hold their own.
hold himself? Yeah.
I think that's a bigger thing than it sounds, that they're just holding their own and they're competing. Now the Dolphins will be worried because they've only won one of the last 6.
Yeah, there's one a bit.
They've lost to the Storm, beat the Dragons, but they've not lost to any slouches here. They've lost to the Warriors,
Yeah.
Manly, with Turbo, who was at his best trying to
That's true.
guarantee himself an origin spot.
Yeah.
Para, Brisbane. They're not bad teams to
No,
lose to.
yeah.
No.
You're beating teams as well that you probably shouldn't. They beat the Sharks and they beat the Titans. I know they've just dropped out of the conversation, but they're only 2 points behind the 8.
It's close, isn't it? That
They could
eight
still
race.
make it. If they
That
go on a
eight
run, they
race
could
is
still
really
make it.
close.
And if they don't make it, is anyone really that critical of them?
Well, everyone was predicting them the wooden spoon. You predicted they'd get 4 points all season.
Yeah, all right, thanks, mate.
I was off the
I think I said 6 points actually. I said they'd get 3 wins all season. But there are far more teams that have done poorer than the Dolphins. Brisbane.
There's a lot of teams, looking worse than the Dolphins this year. Obviously, the Dragons spring to mind, the Bulldogs spring to mind.
St George.
So St George,
Bulldogs.
Bulldogs, West.
Knights.
Yeah, Dragons,
Possibly,
Tigers,
you could put Knights in there, they've been
Knights, Bulldogs,
inconsistent.
all those guys have been awful.
So Dolphins are overperforming. They're doing well.
Bit of a concern though for the Broncos. Payne Haas apparently picked up a knock. Will miss Origin.
Well,
Could miss a couple of weeks.
Payne Haas is one of those guys though where like, okay, Origin's a dead rubber anyway, and he doesn't need to prove himself for his spot next year.
Yeah.
He's a guaranteed pick. So if Payne Haas misses Origin 3, whatever.
But I mean,
Missing
it's the
three
fact that he's
Bulldogs.
apparently missing 2 or 3 games after that,
Yeah.
and then they're getting into the playoffs. Might not be the right time for to pick up an injury to Payne Haas. Now we're going to go to another very, very good opening partnership. The Knights winning 66 points to 0 against the Bulldogs at the Bulldogs.
If Zach Crawley and Ben Duckett could do that, eh?
Yeah, consistently. The Knights, we actually said this. What a surprise! No try for Kalen Ponga.
No.
No try for Dom Young.
I know, really crazy.
Imagine getting 66 points and them two not scoring.
That's wild.
Again, so poor from the Dogs.
Yeah, I don't know.
Just opening gaps, and Ponga was at his brilliant best. I think he got 3 try assists.
You remember us talking about all the positivity around the Bulldogs and selling out Belmore and all
Yeah.
that, and it's gone on it. It's just disappeared. It's all gone. The one player that I like from them, Alvarillo,
He's leaving.
he's
isn't he?
leaving.
He went to the Dolphins.
He's gone
didn't
to the Dolphins. They just
I know they've got injuries with
kick out.
Reed Marnie's injured, isn't he?
Sutton, McMahon is injured.
Thompson's injured.
Thompson, yeah.
But they've already announced Stephen Crichton's going to go there next year.
Yeah,
So-
so big money.
It's going to be big money. Is he going to play centre? If he's on that money, do you want to be spending that money on a centre?
I don't know.
It's probably there to replace Avarillo, isn't it? if he's
Well,
playing centre, if
that's
Avarillo's
probably
going.
why Avarillo's leaving.
Mm.
It is because
Who's the full back for the Dogs?
Chris was coming in. Well, they've got Kiraz, but I'm sure he's going to play every week, doesn't he?
But Crichton's played a lot of full back.
Crichton can play fullback, but I don't know. What does he play for Samoa? He plays fullback, doesn't he? But
Well, he started at centre and then he moved into full back and moved Suwali into the.
yeah,
That'd be a really interesting one.
it's an
because
interesting one. I
do you
liked.
want to be touching 700-800k on a centre?
I liked Kiraz
Mm.
at the World Cup.
Yeah.
For Lebanon, but he's
Not Stephen Crichton quality.
no, he's been playing on the wing anyway, and they've had Hayes Perzam at fullback.
I would suggest Crichton's going to play full back then.
I don't really know who Hayes Perzam is, but yeah, I would suggest that Crit is probably going to end up at fullback, which then says Avarillo's leaving. Who's playing centre then?
Just doesn't make sense to
I
me.
don't know.
That's a big change, and I can't see where it's coming from now. I know I made the joke in the first episode that I was like Phil Gould.
Yep.
But you have to look at the success he had with Penrith, where he's set up this development programme. So I am backing him to get it right with the Bulldogs and set up all these development pathways. And it took 10 years for the work that he did to come through at Penrith. And you're seeing the byproducts of that now with the lads that they produced. Crichton's, the Dylan Edwards, the Clearys, Jerome Luai. I think he's going to try and set this club up for 10 years of success. But you have to have some immediate effect. You can't just wait for 5-6 years.
Especially when you spend the money that the Dogs have and players like Thompson, like Adok,
Well,
like
Matt Burton. What was he
Like-
playing?
Been injured, hasn't
Well, he was fit this week.
he? Did he play?
No, I don't think he played.
Kyle Flanagan?
Well, Burton and Critter will be your fullback and centre. Don't know the order.
Burton has to play in the halves.
But I think Burton will play fullback.
I reckon Burton will play fullback next year.
That'd be an interesting one. Right.
Final game.
Last game. The Sea Eagles versus the Roosters. 18 points to 16. The Sea Eagles win. They were out without Tom Travojevic, who's most likely going to miss the rest of the season.
No, but Jake was back.
Jake was back, and
And the other brother was
the other younger brother
Ben, is it?
scored the match-winning try. Ben Travojevic, he's a second rower, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
The master, DCE with a double.
DCE.
Another intercept try with about
He's
a
the
minute
best.
left.
He's the
He
best.
is so good at intercept. He gets one every feels like he gets one every other week.
I know.
I know. Ruben Garrett kicking all 3 goals. The tries for the Roosters, Pauga, Tedesco and Joey Manu. I look at this side and it looks like there's something going seriously wrong. They named Manu in the centres. The halves were Keary and Sandon Smith.
Yeah, Sandon Smith. Well, you saw him in the last play. Not a clue really. Not a clue what was going on.
But you can't put it on him. Where's this going with Sam Walker? He was going to be the next halfback to dominate for the Roosters.
Walker and Kira are too similar.
But they've cut him now and they're missing a half and playing Sandon Smith there. A lad who's played 3 games in a Roosters side that can't buy a win.
I know.
It just doesn't feel right to me, that.
I know.
There's been inconsistency, I know I keep coming back to that word, but across the pair with the Roosters, they've had loads of different combinations. They tried Manu at 6. I'm not a big fan of that. I think he's a centre. I prefer him at centre.
Well, I think he's a centre
But
or
they
a
had-
full-back.
But they had too many kind of injuries, so they tried something new, but they're always trying to get something new, and they're not really trying something and sticking with it.
Well,
Seems to be
he
changing
played
every week.
full-back. He played full-back, Manu, when Tedesco was at Origin, and he ran for like 300 and something metres. It was ridiculous numbers that he put out.
Yeah.
They're obviously missing Jose Suwali, who's banned for, was it for a raised knee into a tackle that he got done in?
I can't
The World
remember.
Cup.
No, I don't think it was for that. It's a dangerous contact, which usually is when they're
when you
tackling.
defend- Yeah.
He has been done with that before, and he's been
Cautioned.
NRL wrote him a letter saying you better be careful with this raised knee.
I look and James Tedesco, Is he going to go round again? Is he going to be there in 3 years' time? Is Manu going to be there in 3 years' time? If so, where's he playing? Is Luke Keary going to be there 3 years' time?
Manu's going to be playing rugby union in 3 years' time.
Where's Jared Warrior-Hargreaves going to go? Lindsay Collins, Victor Radley keeps getting banned.
Oh, Lindsay Collins can come to Wigan if he wants.
Yeah, he'd be alright.
Be good, hard-working prop. I mean, that would be a perfect addition to our pack this year.
Yeah.
Lindsay Collins would be the absolute perfect addition.
But I think they're going to stick with Trent Robinson. There was then reports that they were letting 12 players go.
Yeah.
11, 12 players go, whether that's to be sold or be released.
Off contract, yeah.
Or off contract. How would you have a squad like that? Who do you bring in?
Who builds a team like that? No one.
I've just realised Brandon Smith's not played.
That's not how you build a squad.
Brandon Smith's not played, and Jake Turpin's played at 9.
Yeah, so Connor Watson and Brandon Smith were the biggest money signings, and they've just not played enough.
Well, Connor Watson got injured, didn't he?
They've both been injured. They've just not played enough. That's unlucky on their part, because those were the two that they would have been banking on.
But switching gears here, sorry, because I watched this game. Manly,
Yeah.
Sea Eagles, played well and got the win. Sorry to put you both on the spot, but I'm awful with names, especially in the NRL. Manly's number 11. I don't know if you know him back row.
I've got it here. Ola Katoa.
Olakau'atu,
sorry.
I like watching him play. He's got me
he's a
out.
serious
Goes back
talent.
row, runs on a shot, puts a shot out. I don't think I've ever seen him make a tackle, but I've not gone, oh, because it hurts, and you can tell it hurts.
When
I
the
like
conversation about Josh Schuster started, about whether he was going to be a serious player and whether he's going to be half, they're clearly not.
Is that
They've
number
said-
6 who's been in trouble getting to fight for the academy
Yeah.
product? Is that the guy you're on about? Yeah.
He's clearly not the option that they're going for because they sound like Brooks.
Mm.
So they've got to go away from that. They're not going to get rid of Cherry Evans. If I was playing as a half with Olakau'atu on the outside of it,
I'll be giving him flat balls every single set.
I'd just
Yeah.
be taking him to the line and then using him.
25 tries in 65 games
For a second row.
for a forward.
That's almost Liam Farrell numbers.
6 tries in 16 this season. Played for Tonga at the World Cup.
He's a serious talent and he's such a good ball player as well.
There's definitely talk of him playing for the Blues if he's not doing. I don't know if he's been named, but yeah, talk of him playing for the Blues. Olakau'atu, fantastic talent.
But
Yeah.
Luke Brooks now gone to them. That's been announced. The West weren't happy that he's left. Maybe he just needed a new start. But you're going to guess that he's going to partner Cherry Evans. Means Schuster's going to have to go back into the second row. So where they see him long term. A few players possibly moving around there then.
I think the Luke Brooks one, as much as West don't like it, I can see why Brooks possibly wanted that to happen. He's going to a lot of stick at the Tigers.
Yeah.
There was all that pressure and which he's managed to kind of get himself back now with some good performances and kind of people say no, he is a real half back, he's an NRL standard. So I think he's probably looking for a new club, a new start, and wipe the slate clean and then try and impress over at Manly and pick them up a little bit. So I can see why he may have forced the move or wanted the move to come through.
Yeah,
I want a fresh start.
Yeah.
Right, that wraps up the NRL. We're going to come back and we've got a lot of news to talk about on the Wigan front, seeing as we missed last week. So thank you very much. So we're back with a bit of I can't really call it breaking news because it broke last week.
Yeah, Monday morning. What were you doing? I was teaching a lesson.
I was teaching a lesson and my phone's going buzz, buzz, and I
My
went,
dad kept tweeting, sending me tweets.
I thought something like serious was up me. So I was like, oh, I've got to deal with something after this. And then I went, oh, came out my lesson, dead panicked. And then next thing you know, we're going to sign 2 players. They also signed one that night. I was driving home.
Night before, Sunday night.
The Sunday night after the Salford game.
Yeah, we played cricket, didn't we?
Yeah, we played cricket.
Right off.
My dad, I've been watching Salford. I picked him up, dropped him off at home, and as I'm leaving, he rings me to say that they've announced we've signed Cruz Lehman.
So, starting off, Cruz Lehman.
What a surprise!
4-year
that is.
deal from 2024.
That is a real surprise signing. One of them that there was no rumours about. Normally you hear a few things that, we're going to in talks with Cruz Lehman.
All I've heard is Catalan are in.
I'd heard that, and then the next thing I heard was a post by one of a reporter. I can't remember who it was. Basically saying that we've announced we got the deal done in 72 hours.
Yeah,
So
we hijacked it. 72 hours. So he said 4-year deal from 2024. He said his best rugby is ahead of him. So he's played for Huddersfield for 6 years. I always forget that was a long time to play for Huddersfield.
Yeah.
And he's at the Gold Coast Titans currently. He's I think he's an excellent player.
It's weird. I don't want to go into speculation about who's coming and going because there will be some changes. There has to be with that. Cruz Lehman, if he's brought in on a 4-year deal, has to be your starting 9. So that means there's going to be some serious changes. And we could speculate until forever about, I think he'll leave, or he might change position, or he might do this. So I don't really want to get into that if I'm being completely honest.
No, but yeah, there's a bit of a situation kind of here where we've got too many 9s and halfbacks essentially in the form of obviously we've got O'Neill currently starting, Powell needs to come back in, Costy's liking playing as a
Tom
sub-9.
Forber's gone on loan.
Forber's gone on loan, and obviously when Lehman comes in, we're saying he's got to be the starting 9. So straight away they've got too many.
Presumably
9s.
this has been signed as a response to something happening.
Yeah.
When I did go to the sponsors dinner last year, Chris Adlinski was being inducted into the Wigan Hall of Fame by Ian Lenigan. It was a surprise, and Lenigan actually said that Chris Adlinski has got a board in his office of the current squad, next year's squad, and the squad for 2025 with signings that he wants to make. So I don't know whether many clubs do that or
How far ahead they play.
yeah, how actually whether or not Cruz Lehman's been on that for 3 years. He probably hasn't because he became available in April. But
I think this is Wigan seeing a chance and they've took it.
forward thinking.
But let's just have a look at his career over here because he's played 6 games for the Titans, scored 1 try.
Yeah.
But over here in club rugby, he's played 191 games, got 33 tries, 2 field goals.
Yeah.
Very experienced player. He's now got representative honours. Played for the Knights, played for the Combined Nations All-Stars.
He was born in Swaziland.
Yeah.
So that's a weird one to represent in the Combined Nations. But yeah, he'd be representing England, I suppose, or England Knights.
So there is chances there for him.
He's a leader as well, was the captain of Leeds before he went to Gold
Yep.
Coast. So he's clearly got some leadership qualities on the field for him to be captain.
Now, obviously, we don't know what happened with him leaving at Leeds, but that's sort of behind us. And
It was a bit weird, that situation, wasn't it? But
Yeah.
yeah, we said that at the time, but again, let's not speculate. It's a very, like I say, yeah, I agree, it's a really good signing. Obviously, we need to see again when he comes in, like I've just been saying there, how is this going to work with the squad and how is he going to fit in and who might have to change position, who might have to leave. But like I say, I bet we trust Radlinski and Pete to have those conversations and to put, a better squad and to improve the squad going forward.
now let's move on to another signing coming over from Leeds, or been at Leeds, is the back rower / potentially prop forward Sam Walters.
Yeah.
He's born in 2000, which makes me feel really old.
My
he's
sister
young-
was born in 2000.
Yeah, but he's younger than me, and it feels really weird saying that. He's
I'll wait till we get to the next one.
tell me about it. He's 22 years old. He's got 6 tries
He's been playing.
to his name. He's
been playing for a few years now.
He's had 30 appearances for Leeds. I just realised that's not included the game against Warrington, so he's up to 7 tries in 31 games. I've been really impressed with him. He's one that I like the look of. He is a big, hard running, good defensively.
Yeah.
I like the lines he runs.
I like him off the edge, and they've announced him as prop forward,
Have they?
but Peter said he can play through the middle or as a back row. So I think he's going to play more as a back row. When I did this on Monday evening, when these signings were made, I put together just sort of a rough, squad numbers
I'd love a massive second row.
of Wigan Warriors for next season, and obviously there'll be further
More
outgoings. But I basically took out the ones I thought would leave, and I kept the ones that I think we'd maybe keep, and I added Leeming, Walters, and Chan, and I added Walters at second row, and I added him a number 11 shirt. Not necessarily thinking he's going to play there the whole time, but I do think we need a second rower. We need to replace John Bateman.
Yeah.
And we need to replace Kai Pearce-Paul. Now, the next one we speak about is probably going to do the second part. But I believe we need to replace John Bateman, who we still haven't replaced.
Yeah, we replaced him in part with the fact that
Shorrocks has played more games.
Shorrocks has played more games. We had Pearce-Paul and Isa, obviously both unfortunately getting injured.
Yeah, well, we already had Pearce-Paul, but we haven't actually signed anybody to be in that position.
Replace him.
Especially with Pearce-Paul leaving.
Yeah.
So I think, personally, that Walters is going to be that right edge second rower.
I think what is getting me excited, and I know we've said early on in the point, this might contradict what we said earlier on, but if we can keep hold of both of these players, our future pack could include both Walters and December, who are two big, tall, athletic, skillful, forwards. Like having them two in your pack.
Well, I wouldn't.
Who's only going to get better? They're only both going to get better with time.
I think, and I think both of them could end up in the middle of the park. To be honest, I think Consemba could end up at prop, potentially. I think Walters might end up at prop as well. I think he might do a bit of both. He did a bit of both on Thursday night, didn't he?
Yeah.
He played out wide. He played a brilliant game out wide, and then through the middle for large parts of the game as well.
He did, yeah, but I'm liking, I think, back row, get them two big, tall, athletic lads running at half-backs.
And I like the age profile that we're starting to set up here. Havard. Well, let's just list all the players less than 25.
Okay, in the prop.
In the props.
In props or forwards?
In the forwards, just in general. But Havard, Byrne, Smithies, Shorrocks, Walters, December, Hill. How old's Cade Ellis?
O'Neill, if you want to call him.
O'Neill, yeah.
I know he's a
wasn't
nine type
including
thing.
him as a
Chan.
Chan.
We'll talk about him next. I know we've signed him. We've not spoken about him yet, but Chan, yeah.
I'm just having a quick check to see how old Cade Ellis
Clearly
is.
seems to be Pete and Radlinski's philosophy, this, doesn't it? Signing.
Cade Ellis is 26.
Look how old Patrick Mago is. I bet Mago's younger than you think.
Young talent, I think, is
It's
the
28
way.
Mago.
Patrick Mago, 28.
Is the way how they're going through, I think. They want to be
Yeah.
bringing in some. I mean, you can tell now, obviously. I know Leeman's a bit more experienced,
Leeman's only 27.
but that's what I mean. Walters,
He's been
Chan.
around. When I did that squad number thing,
They signed Pearce-Paul from London, very, very young as well. So
I left number 8 free because I do think we're a prop signing.
I would love a prop signing.
Incoming.
But I suppose it depends on the Mike Cooper, the Mago situation.
Yeah.
And we are speculating again because one person will tell you that Mike Cooper will be fine next year. One will tell you that he's never going to play again because they've heard it from someone.
But I
It's all
personally
rumours.
believe that we're a prop signing incoming.
Yeah.
However, I'm also very happy to give Liam Byrne the number 8 shirt and to roll with Walters as an extra prop. I don't know, and maybe we sign a second rower. I don't know what's going to happen.
No, December's going to get more game time.
December's going to get more game time, but I don't want to go into the year with December at number 11 playing every game.
no.
Because he'll still not.
Byrne gets a starting prop shirt for me because he's doing a very good. Yeah, like you said, he's doing a very good job this season. Byrne. He's probably going to get under the radar with this.
So Byrne, so
Havard
this year
looking
Byrne has got number 10 and Havard's got 15, 16, 16.
Something
16.
like that, I think. Yeah.
So the question is, do you give Havard number 8 as a reward for his loyalty and for his excellent performances?
Signed on another big contract.
Sign on another big contract we spoke about 2 weeks ago. Potentially, I'd be very happy to do that. Originally, I was going to do that. I think the first draft I sent to you.
Pete likes them two starting.
I think
Doesn't he? That's what he's got Singo, and even when Ellis he tends to start with.
It'd be
Byrne
interesting
and
to see
Havard
when
when they
Ellis
see that is his long term.
Be interesting to see when Ellis is back, who starts and whoever. Because I've always said to you, I like Ellis. I like Havard off the bench.
Yes.
I like Ellis off the bench though as well.
Because he comes on after 20 minutes and could very easily play through to end of the second half.
It might be Singleton and Byrne starting, Havard and Ellis off the bench.
It's a strong bench. If you've got Mago as a third choice prop,
Mago's
innit?
third choice on the bench.
It's a strong prop.
I think the first
But
draft
Hill's going to
originally,
get even better.
the first draft I sent to you had Havard number 8, Byrne number 10. But then I ended up leaving number 8 blank because I think there's probably another prop signing coming. So I had 15, 16, 17 as 14, 15, 16 as Cooper.
Well,
Ellis
let's
Havard,
talk
locking his
about the
name.
prop that we have signed.
Yeah.
Teki Chan.
Teki Chan.
His brother has just signed for Melbourne last year, and he's over there. Is it Joe Chan?
Yep. His dad, Alex, is the director of rugby for Catalan.
Yes. So Tiaki's played 15 games for Catalan. He's got 12 this season.
6'1", 23, 15 stone. Federation trained because he can play for France. Perfect
I
sign.
hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah. Well, he's Australian, but
He can play for France, yeah.
he has played for France.
Having a little bit of a look at his stats against Leeds 2 weeks ago, 8 carries for 100 metres. Against Hull, 8 carries for 70 metres. Wigan, he had a quieter game, 11 carries for 45. But he's starting to play a bigger role in this Catalan side, and in the last 4 or 5 weeks has played a lot more minutes. Very good sign, I suppose, because that's a strong Catalans pack.
Yeah, and he's registered as a prop forward. Potentially another one that could play on the edge, but he's registered as a prop forward. If this is to take over from Ramon Silva, I know he's 23, which is older than Silva, but it looks like Silva's on the out as a bit of a project signing that hasn't really worked. He's a significant improvement on that.
Yeah,
The squad numbers I gave him, number 20 shirt.
he could play. He could play next year.
I think he's basically, well, I think Mago's probably on the out, and I think he is instead of Mago. I think he's 5th or 6th prop, young, raw, get lots of games. I'm happy with him.
I'm reluctant to comment on that because you never know how a season could go, and you know what, he might play first game and run 200 metres and make 40 tackles, and then he's playing every week.
You never know. But if we've got a proper reserve system, that's what it's there for.
Yeah.
You cannot go into a season with 5 props. We did it this year. We let Partington leave, and we didn't sign anybody in props.
And we've had to deal with the Cooper injury.
And we've had to deal with several injuries in the props, and it's cost us. Ellis, Cooper, Havard were all injured at one point. We need 6 or 7 good props, and we need the reserve system to be firing for the 2 that don't get picked, because Pete likes picking 5.
Yeah.
Or the 3 that don't get picked to have a game.
I could see if the reserves doesn't go on, I think we'll get even more of these 1 month loan signings.
Well, we used to dual reg with Swinton, didn't we? And then that stopped when they had a change of owner, a change of head coach.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe to get these players playing at Super League level. Because Haverhill needs games at Super League level. Nsemba will. Tiaki Chan will. And the only way I can see that is you're not going to get it if you're not playing every week in the reserves, playing against other teams who are playing the reserve props.
Well, the problem is if you want to loan out Tiaki Chan for a year, first of all, you'll probably need him for a handful of games.
See, I think they'll do these 1 month, a bit like Forber go into
Witness.
into Championship.
If you wanted to do it in the Super League, I suppose you could. And you say Toulouse get promoted, whatever. You send him on loan to Toulouse, but then is he going to be playing in a beaten pack?
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's a tough one.
Harvey Hill went on loan to Toulouse, didn't he? And he was very impressed, Sylvan Hools.
It's like you're saying, this is why we need a good reserve system, and it's going to help, especially.
I would start finding teams if they pull out games.
Well, I remember.
They must already be doing
I remember. It was a while ago, but I remember. I think it was Jamie Peacock was doing a bit of analysis on a Challenge Cup game, whatever. And I don't know why they're going to talk about reserves, and he made the point of, he said, especially when you're in a forwards, you can't make the jump of playing scholarship 16s, 18s, and 19s or whatever. And you come through as a 19-year-old kid and you're expected to do a job against 30-year-old men. Like,
Think about
it's going in against Walmsley.
The development, that's it. The development.
and Leeds.
Which Harvey Hill did.
We've seen
this season.
We've seen Harvey Hill this year. We've seen Delaney for Saints. We've seen Lucas Dean. Is that his name?
Green.
Lucas Green. Yeah,
sorry,
Lucas Green for Warrington, the academy captain. It's a big step. You're right. It's a big step.
Especially
for
backs,
prop forward,
maybe.
all prop forwards as
Yeah.
well. All of them 3.
I always find
Forwards
myself
is
looking in
different, you come
school.
across bodies and
They're just not big enough yet.
yeah,
The kids.
the kids, teenagers, and they're coming up against men.
They've still got 5 or 6 years of growth.
And that's what I mean. So I think that's why the reserve system has to be good for me, especially forwards.
So we're going to wrap up.
Well, we've got one more.
Well, not a new
One
signing
more
as such.
Saturday morning after his 2-try performance.
Abbas Miski from Lebanon.
Abbas Miski,
Another year.
announced that the club has taken up the club option of 1 extended year till the end of 2024. It seems as though this was obviously going to happen, although there were a few teams sniffing around Miski. It also feels like the same thing is going to happen for Ellis. Not sure about Cust, although we have the same option for him. So
You have
Ellis,
to put
Cust,
the
and
option on
Miski.
Mago, don't they, as well?
And Mago. So those are the guys we have options on, all those 4. Remains to be seen whether we take all 4 up or just this one from Miski, I don't know. And there's nothing to stop us from, let's say we want to keep Ellis long term, there's nothing to stop us signing him to a 3-year deal now. It's just that we have got this 1-year option.
The thing I suppose
It makes
is
sense.
with the 1 year option is you're just continuing the contract. If you were to come and sit down with a player now, a Bas Miski as a Wigan first team starter is probably valued more. So you might just save a little bit on the cap.
Miski at 29 as well, non-federation trained, so he goes against your quota. I think it's probably a case of let's see where we are in 12 months. His performances have earned a new deal.
Yeah.
So it's just a case of let's see where we're at next year. If we want to sign you long term, we can. I love Abbas Miski though. I think he's never been a regular in the NRL. He's come over,
Just does his job.
signed for the Championship team, London. He's grafted. He's played for his national team. He's grafted. He's signed for Wigan. He's not been first choice instantly. He's worked really, really hard.
Come under a lot of stick when he first signed for Wigan.
That game
at
at Toulouse, he got a lot of stick, and people seem to forget that.
He had stepping at Saints away, I think, last season as well, and he got a lot of stick.
And that whole Hardacre situation, he was another unnoticed casualty to that, because he was thrown in there on Good Friday because Hardacre had done what he did with Pete. So I'm pleased for him. I'm pleased for the club that they've exercised this option. Right time to announce it as well.
That's a good performance.
Yeah, after a great performance, I think it makes sense.
Informed man.
Just makes sense for this. I think Ellis will probably be next.
Yeah. So we're going to take a little break there, and then we'll come back with a very, very quick fire predictions and our opinion on a bit of a controversial subject, I would say. So stick around. So we're going to throw our 2 pence in because there's been a series of new rules trialed, and we watched our first game where these rules were trialled.
It was
on
only the second
Friday.
game out of 4 where they've been trialled.
Yeah, in the academy game, Wigan versus Huddersfield, these rules basically stated that you couldn't tackle above the armpit, and probably more controversially, and I think was a bigger issue, was the kicking off from the 40-metre line. Now the logic behind that is you've got less time to get up to full speed. You're tackling someone as basically after they've caught it, they pass it.
The NFL did this, and they moved the kickoffs closer and closer and closer, because if you kick it out the back of that being goal in the NFL, then the other team just has a 20 tap, which is a reasonable result for both teams, and no one gets concussion. But also, you're running it back from 10 metres closer, and the people running at you are also 10 metres closer, so you've got 20 metres fewer there to run.
Yeah.
So you get less of a speed up. That's the idea behind it. However, in Super League, if you're 40 metres away, you can just kick it up and smash whoever catches it as soon as they touch the ball.
Well, let's talk about this game, because it started off with both teams trying a few different creative kickoffs, trying to go flatter, trying to see if they could kick it out at the sidelines to get the ball back. Basically trying to play the new rule. And I remember after maybe 2 or 3 kickoffs, me and you, Matty, we looked at each other and I went, I'd be putting this as high as I could.
Yeah.
And if you can get a goal, a dead ball kicker who can put up a spiral kickoff, a bit like Pat Richards used to do for
Pat
Wigan.
Richards would have been perfect for these new rules, because he can kick to touch, he can kick 2 points from practically anywhere, and he can put kickoffs up into orbit.
That they put it up, and as you're catching it, you've got a defensive line that's only travelled 35, 40 metres, and I'm saying only like I'm an Olympic runner, I'm not, but 10 metres less.
Oh, Bevan French was playing, it would have knocked him on the head.
Yeah.
You'd have run past it.
Teams would try that. You're catching it as the defensive line's 5 metres off. And those 2 or 3 times where Huddersfield tried it, and I think Sean O'Loughlin's young lad was playing at full back at this point.
Yeah, because we moved him around.
We made a few changes and we moved him round. and he ended up at full back, where he caught the ball and he's effectively stepping straight away to avoid a contact.
Yeah.
And my thought is, you're a kicker. If you're a catch, if you're taking that catch,
Yeah.
you are at a serious risk of someone cleaning you out. If a game's 8-6 and you need the ball back, I'm going to put that up as high as I can.
Which is defeating the objective, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's been
And
brought
I'm
in
trying
to
to
stop
smash it.
concussions
Yeah.
and stop it, and you're going to pin the ball up, and you're not going to look, and you're going to be having your eyes up in the air looking at the ball, and as soon as you catch it, without even bracing for impact or seeing anybody, you're just going to hear footsteps and end up getting absolutely whacked.
And all it'll
Like
lead to
boots.
is either more concussions that way. I would love to see a study where they proved where most concussions happen, because I have my opinion on that, and my opinion is that more concussions happen defensively when you are the defending man. I have no evidence behind that, but that's my opinion from watching the game. I think that is a bigger danger.
Yeah, when people get their head in the wrong places, heads into hips
This-
and heads
this goes-
into knees and things like that.
This goes into the second one. The second rule, the tackling below the armpit.
And this was just it ruined the spectacle of the game.
It meant there was over 55 penalties.
Yeah.
Which was a joke.
And most
But
of them were
above
high
the
tackles.
armpit, like in theory, and obviously
It's still
podcast listeners can't see me now, like literally with my hair underneath my armpit, but you're essentially hitting high anyway, because above the really, it's only.
You got an arm's width, haven't you?
Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah, but it
literally
was-
like
it was
I
like-
don't know many tackles that
It
come
was
across
going into the
shoulders
chest.
anyway.
It was like the badge on the shirt was the limit. So
Right,
people
I
were
see.
going one high, one low, like they've tackled for years, like they've always been taught to tackle. Nowhere near the head or the neck, and it was being given.
Yeah.
So there were just periods where you get a tackle.
No. I
Penalty, high
said
shot.
to you, and we were actually talking to some Huddersfield fans who'd come watching the game, and they were sat next to us, and I said, I would love for someone to do a study and say, look at all the concussions that have happened in the top flight, because obviously they're the games that are recorded, and say, he's got his running a ball in, he's got his defending, he's got one after taking a catch and being hit late, and categorise where these concussions are coming from. Because my only worry, and you can agree or disagree, the lower you tackle, the lower you get your head.
Yeah.
You're hitting hips, you're hitting knees. Look, remember Joel Monaghan's in the
Yeah.
in the grand final,
Got his head on the wrong side.
wrong side, hits Richard's hip, completely accidental, catches his hip, gone, out cold. When you're set,
Doesn't feel like that happens as often when you're the one running in and you get hit with a high shot. And when it does, it's
Yeah.
like a swinging arm that gets punished anyway.
yeah, I feel like the swinging arm one,
Concussions seem to be head on head and knee on head.
yeah,
To me.
knee and hip on head. It's very rare that you see someone come with a genuine high tackle straight to the head and be given high, because you know if you do that, you're in for a red card.
It's a red card, yeah, you're right. And the shoulder to the head is the same now.
Yeah, and you can have your opinions on the shoulder charge and stuff like that. I have no issue with it being removed from the game.
It just led to the game being so stop-start.
Yeah.
It led to 3 Huddersfield men having head tests
Yeah.
and a 4th one having a shoulder injury because they were tackling so low that they were getting knees.
Now, the other point with this to bring up is a Wigan man actually got... was he Simbinder sent off?
I think he was sin-binned, but it was near the end of the game. And
Yeah.
there was a Huddersfield man who did the same thing, but he wasn't sin-binned for it.
Yeah.
Tip tackles.
And basically, Huddersfield got a penalty where they kicked it to touch. They bring it in, tap, and they're setting a prop off to try and get some momentum.
He was running quite quickly as well.
The Wigan lad, who I can't remember his name, and it's going to really annoy me that I forgot his name,
There were 2 of them.
gets low to try and tackle hip height, and the momentum of the prop forward was running through, trying to score a try. He's still trying to get to the line, he's trying to get somewhere. Takes his head over the back of the Wigan defender,
Yeah.
and ends up with him landing on his back / his neck.
He did a bit of a front flip.
Yeah.
Like it looked like he was trying to do a bump in wrestling.
And he ends up getting a yellow card for a tip tackle.
Which, to the left of the law, he did tip tackle him.
Yeah.
He did actually tip tackle him, but
But he's flying at him.
it wasn't his
You're
fault.
asking him to get
Momentum's took
low.
him over
Yeah.
and caused him to fall up,
It
like
was a normal tackle.
roll over. Or
He didn't even have hold of him, really.
That's the only criticism, that he wasn't able to wrap his arms quick enough for me. If he wraps his arms, he probably falls back with him. But he just wasn't able to get around.
Because we're running too quickly.
He's running too quickly.
Well, the thing, what you're going to have a problem with this is everyone, the common thing is rugby, everyone says you need to tackle around the legs. You actually coach to tackle your first point of contact should be up top where they're going to want them not to
Safest.
hit.
It's
One,
safest.
because it's the safest, and two, because
And
you
can take
talk
the
to...
momentum.
Well, one safety, two, you can take the momentum, and three, if you're a defence coach, it's to wrap the ball up. They say literally it should be bodies in front, where it's chest on chest, and you wrap the ball up to stop the offload coming. Then you get one in the ribs, then the third one comes in at the legs, and you land them on the back in an ideal situation. Slows the ruck down,
That's the
you stop the
perfect tackle.
offload. It's the perfect three-man
So
tackle.
there's nobody tackling low and a player running at them.
No.
Only seems to happen on the line anyway.
Yeah.
My question is, more than anything, you want them to tackle. You can't tackle above the armpit, right? Okay, that's the rule. How are you going to stop offloads? Someone tell me the solution, because this is going to create a problem if they bring it into Super League, that teams will know that you can't get there. They'll carry the ball slightly higher. Know you have to go below it.
Brian
And it
McDermott
brings in some.
would overnight become the greatest coach in the league. Brian McDermott.
Yeah, because he just encourage offloads.
Yeah, he does that.
And then everyone goes, oh, our defence is rubbish now because we're just giving offloads. And this goes to all teams in Super League. And they go, oh, the game's too quick. We're getting more injuries because the game's too quick and you can't get in tackles.
You have to make him 5 or 6 tackles to get somebody on the ground.
Yeah. So you can't wrap the ball up, because if you go over the ball to try and wrap it up, you're going to hit him a high chest into the neck area.
Do you
and
think
you're giving a penalty.
This was taken to the absolute extreme, this? And I've said my problem with it, which was the increased head knocks for Huddersfield and the shoulder injury and the tip tackle thing. Do you think they were overzealous with the penalising it because they wanted to fail, the referees and the players?
No, I think the referee called it as he would call it no matter what.
And he was wearing a camera on his head.
He was wearing a camera to
This
watch
was a
it.
trial game, yeah.
I think he called it exactly as he saw it. But how... I don't want to be funny. How do you judge someone's armpit?
I like that ref as well. I thought he was good. I know he was doing the bad rules, but he was using his touch judges well.
Yeah.
And he was very clear with his signals.
It
but
becomes very difficult to judge where does the armpit start exactly. Are we going slightly above it?
I think he
You've
was
got-
using the badge on the shirt.
Yeah. Well, that will leave questions.
Just make you see him have really low badge on the shirt.
If you is it if you touch the badge? A lot of players carry the ball around that high, slightly lower. So then you can't be
There were a few tackles that were just on the ball that he gave as penalties.
But if you carry the ball around like upper chest height and you hit the ball and slide it up, it's penalty. So you now have to go below that.
We also have to appreciate it's rugby league, it's a contact sport. I'm not saying that means we should just say, oh, well, don't bother, there's no point trying to protect players and stop concussions, and that's not what I'm saying at all. But
I always think
sometimes when you try and solve a problem, like you're saying, no, you just create a new one.
you
and
have to have a look
accept.
at the consequence of that.
Yeah.
And the consequence is the players are fresher because the stops start more, they're playing more minutes, and they're getting concussions other ways.
banning the shoulder charge
Was a
made
good
sense.
decision.
It made people less likely to have head knocks. It made people.
It made the game more
It
controlled.
made the game safer, but it also meant you could still tackle in a safe way. This kind of made it that it makes it more dangerous to tackle than anything.
It makes it safer for the attacker.
Oh, unless you get one of those tip tackles.
Yeah.
Unless you're running at full speed and someone just tries to tackle you around the knees, or two people do instead of one low, one high. Anyway, we've put our 2 pence in. We don't like it. Nobody seems to. I think it'll fail. It's got 2 more games to go.
But I think we're also admitting that we don't have a solution for it ourselves.
But I think you just.
Well, the solution is scrap it.
Yeah.
It's making it worse. It's taking a problem and making it worse.
Yeah. Right, let's get into our predictions. We'll keep it really short, keep it sweet.
Yeah, quick fire.
So, we can play Wakey at Wakey. Matty, who are you going?
7:45 this.
7:45, yeah.
7:45. We need to be there for 7:45, not 10 to.
Yeah.
I just realised. Well, we're going to win, aren't we?
I hate it when people say that.
Well, I hope we do.
David Feeder's going to play an absolute blinder in it.
But it's happened before, and we've been beaten there before. We've beaten there last year, weren't we? On our 3rd trip.
Yeah.
But
I'm going Wigan.
I think
I'll just get it out of the way. I'm going Wigan.
Wigan.
I think we'll have enough.
But not because we should, because I just always back Wigan.
Because we will. I think
that
we'll win.
worries me. I hate that confidence.
Well, you've been confident every week.
Right, Castley at Cass. I'll go first. I'll take a change for once. I'll go first. I'm going to go Lee. That's it.
So am I.
Yeah, Lee. Close.
I thought one of us might have gone Cass.
They do need a win, but I can't see it being this
Well, you're
week.
flying at the minute.
I can't see it being this week.
Right, Warrington Saints. Matty, who are you going?
This I would have loved to watch this on Sky, if nothing else. Just
Would have been a really good Thursday game as
one
well.
of these teams is going to lose, and it's going to be funny.
Yeah.
Um,
What if Warrington lose and Powell doesn't come down? Do you
I
think
think-
in for more time?
well, it's that box again, isn't it? Because it's at the
Mm.
Halliwell Jones. I think that's going to happen. I think Saints are going to win.
Lewis?
I think Saints are going to win. I think Warrington's going to. I think Powell's creating a really toxic environment. I think I can see Warrington losing the next few, so I'm going to go Saints.
I've got to go Saints as well. The big question is whether Williams plays.
Well,
if Williams plays, he could drag any.
I just heard that he's out
Have you?
from somebody who, well, he's done an interview at Wimbledon today,
Oh, right.
and he said he's not playing. But he's named in the 21, so I don't know.
If Williams played, he can make any team win any game. He is that good.
Yeah, but he's obviously not fully fit, even if he does play.
But if he's not playing out, I've got to go.
Is it back at the Halliwell Jones?
Yeah.
Is it?
Be interesting to see how the fans are though.
That's what I
after
was
the comments.
thinking. Yeah, and it doesn't change my prediction, but yeah.
If they get 6 or
I wonder
10
if it-
points down early doors,
That's it.
what's
Early
gonna
try
happen?
for Saints, and it could get sour very, very
I
quickly.
wonder what's going to happen there.
in
If
Warrington.
Saints score early, then I wonder what's going to happen with
Yeah.
their fans.
So then we're into the south of France on Saturday. Catalans versus Huddersfield.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm safe to say that we're all going to go Catalans.
Yeah.
Absolutely flying
I'll
at
back
home.
Catalan against anybody at home, especially Huddersfield.
You know what really made me laugh? Huddersfield tweeted that they've still got limited tickets left for the game today. Like,
Limited.
well, it's in Catalan, so I'd be more worried about flights. Like,
Oh,
gotta
you
get
mean? Well, yeah, we're not going now.
exactly. Right, Hull Derby on the Sunday. Is that
Yeah.
12 o'clock kickoff?
Sky Sports, 12 o'clock.
Yeah, it's on Sky
Hull
Sports.
KR versus Hull FC.
I'm looking forward to this. This should be a double header because the second game is interesting as well.
Yes, it
Get
should,
these
actually.
games both on, one after the other. You don't even have to go to Salford, just put 2 cameras there. Do everything else from Hull KR.
So, Hull KR, Hull FC. Hull KR won the first derby
40-0.
quite convincingly, yeah.
Revenge this time for the FC.
Who are you saying?
Close. Hull FC close.
Lewis?
I'm going to go KR. I think they've lost the last couple. I think they need bounce back. Hull Derby. Good way to do it. So I'm going Hull KR.
This is a good game, isn't it? I'm looking forward to
tasty.
this.
I'm going Hull FC and Jake Clifford man of the match. I think he is going to be the
It's not a
difference
bad show.
because they're missing Abdul.
Not a bad show.
That's true. No Abdul.
And Lewis
No
didn't get
penalty.
banned, did he?
No.
No,
he didn't get a ban.
I think so.
I don't think they were getting anyone back though.
The weird thing was that Amir Burra got banned, and then today they said, "Oh, actually, we've looked at the wrong thing. He's not banned. He can play against Leeds."
So what they looked at should have been banned.
No,
Well, they've looked at something and said he
they
should
know
be
they've
banned.
looked at his grading and said ban, and actually that grading doesn't carry a ban. It's just a £250 fine.
Oh right, so they
So-
just made a mistake.
They made a mistake. Nobody checked it. So Amir Burra was originally banned, and Salford said, "Hang on, how come he's banned?" And then he went, "Oh right, yeah, he's fine. He can play against."
Fair enough. So in the last game, so you went Hull FC, Matty.
Hull FC.
Lewis,
I
you
went
went KR.
KR.
I've gone FC just off the fact of the missing Abdul,
Yeah, the Clifford factor.
the Clifford factor, a more set team. Salford Leeds.
I'd love to watch this as well.
Leeds flying. They're probably one of the informed teams. They've won.
Shall we
2
just
from
go
2.
to Salford on Sunday? We didn't get to go last week.
I was thinking about that, looking at that.
Just watch the first game and then just quickly get to Salford. Possible, I suppose.
Are you going?
I have not been impressed.
Wait.
What? Go
3
on.
men back for Salford.
I know.
3 men back. Croft, Ackers, Brayley.
I know, but I've been impressed with Leeds last couple of weeks. I'm going to go with them. I think they're going to carry it on. I've been really impressed with Leeds.
Lewis, who are you going?
Salford for the same reason I went KR. They've lost the last couple and they need to bounce back. So I'm going to go Salford.
I'm going to go Salford. Just off the fact of Brayley being back. He isn't going to be like... Croft and Ackers obviously make them a better team. but they were coming off a bit of an injury. It'll take some time. We're really as well. Been a concussion. He'll have been in training. I'm going to go Salford. Don't know why. We said they're inconsistent Leeds, so I'm expecting something maybe to go wrong at some point.
Salford at home as well for that game.
Salford at home. So that wraps it up, guys. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Wigan Way. It's been a long one. We had a lot to talk about. So we do apologise if
We
you...
always do.
This is our longest ever episode, comfortably.
Yeah.
Beating when I went abroad and you two talked about Wigan Lee for ages.
Yeah, but we battered Lee. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
I've got to give another apology for the fish jokes on Trout. I just keep having flashbacks. Thank you for being here, guys.
Cue.
Been a pleasure.
No problem.
The Falling Frank.
On that note, we'll leave it. Thanks.